Hello. I didn't know how it was going to transition, so I didn't quite nail that one. ah, Good morning, Dam Fam. Getting close to good afternoon, where we are here at the Beaver Lodge, and welcome to a True North Eager Beaver special. As promised, we ended our morning show a little abruptly to be able to bring this to you because right now, as we are speaking, the Minister of Finance, François-Philippe Champagne, is announcing some, or at least making an address in which we suspect that initial thoughts or initial plans for supports and countermeasures will be announced, given that we are now in a tariff war, absolutely and totally officially with the United States of America. So we wanted to have a live watch party to see this. It's a little deferred, started around 11, so we might be a little behind, but still wanted to watch it all together so that we can get a good sense of it. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Today, recording day is Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. Hope your mental health is still doing well. Mine is. And since it's already started, why not just get into it, kits and cubs? A little reminder here before we do, of course, that if you would like to support our show because you believe that what we do is important and our content resonates with you, if you can scan that QR code, which will bring you to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, and offer us a little tip, maybe a little hot chocolate to keep us going through the day, would be very appreciated. Thank you so much for all you do to support us. And now, damn fam, let's get into it. We have François-Philippe Champagne. I've got the feed from CBC. If there's any French, I'm not sure if there is going to be some live interpretation, so I might have to stop and do that for you. But here we are. Here's the minister. And I will put myself here in the corner because sometimes you need to put baby in a corner. Right, Donald? I saw that on Twitter and laughed really hard when I saw that. All right. This is the minister, François-Philippe Champagne.
Perhaps being interrupted here. I do want to take our viewers now live to that announcement. Here is the Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne.
This is the message that we are sending this morning. Minister Joly, the Minister of Industry here in Canada, my colleague Patty Hajdu, who will responding to the labor sector. And I'd like also to thank the different union leaders that are here with us. Thank you.
We need our workers, we need our unions. And I want to say special thanks also to all the workers behind us. You made us proud. We're stood up for you. We're going to stand up for you. We're going to stand up for industry. We're going to stand up for business. And we're going to stand for Ideal Roofing. That's the message. That is the message this morning to all of you. Je veux saluer évidemment mon collègue, le ministre Solomon.
I'd like to thank Minister Solomon. He played an important role in the response that we're about to provide.
Which are joining. I won't name them because, as Mona said, there are many colleagues who are joining. But I think what Canadians can see this morning is that we stand united. We stand united in our response. We stand united in our resolve. We stand united in fighting for Canada. Et je veux évidemment remercier les gens d'Ideal Roofing.
I'd also like to thank the people from Ideal Roofing and Philippe specifically. He's very proud with your father. Imagine this business was created over close to 100 years ago. And you can hear the sound in the background. And it was in a former warehouse. And Philippe is running the company. And 350 people work in Toronto, in Moncton, and Ottawa for this company. It's a beautiful Franco-Ontarian success story. And so,
you are a true Canadian success story. And a big round of applause to you and the 350 workers. You know, you're supplying roofing across the country, and I saw employees who started when you were very young. They told me you were very young when they started, but now you're leading the company, and we're going to support you as we go forward. And when we talk about protecting the Canadian economy, We're talking about people like you, people who are watching at home as well, people who get up every morning, clock in, work hard, and support their families and communities. Le Canada traverse aujourd'hui un conflit commercial.
Canada is going through a trade dispute that we did not choose, but we do have to face it, and we will face it with determination and commitment.
This is an unprecedented challenge imposed on Canada. But Canada will meet the moment. Canadians will meet the moment. We will meet the moment together. And as the Prime Minister has said, we will support our workers, our businesses, and our industry with whatever it takes for as long as it takes. That is the essence of the message this morning, and that's why we are united with you, and that's why we want to present what we have to offer to Canadians. That's why we'll present the outline of our Canada Strong Responses Plan with targeted countermeasures and a substantive support package for workers and businesses totaling $7.5 billion. Because when Canadians stand together, nothing can stop us. Over the past several months, as you have seen, our government has worked intensely and in good faith to reach a mutually beneficial trade agreement with the United States of America. Minister LeBlanc, our Chief Trade Negotiator, Janice Charette, our negotiating team, and the Prime Minister worked tirelessly on behalf of all Canadians. But ultimately, the terms proposed by the U.S. administration were uneconomic, unfair, and ultimately unacceptable. They asked too much of Canada and offered too little in return. Accepting them would have harmed our workers, people like you see here today, weaken our industries, and compromise principles fundamental to our nation. So we stood up for our workers, we stood up for our businesses, we stood up for Canada. Nous n'avons pas choisi ce conflit
We did
commercial.
not choose this
Mais lorsque
conflict,
notre intégration économique
but when
est utilisée
our economic
comme
integration
levier exploité,
is used
plutôt que comme
as a
fondement
weapon
d'un partenariat
rather than the
gagnant-gagnant,
foundation for a
nous devons nous
win-win
tenir
partnership, we need to
et
stand
défendre
up
nos intérêts,
and defend our
défendre nos
interests,
travailleurs,
defend our
défendre nos
workers,
entreprises
our
et
businesses,
défendre notre souveraineté économique.
and defend our economic
Jamais nous
sovereignty.
n'accepterons qu'un
We will
autre
never
pays nous
accept
dicte
for
la voie à
another
suivre.
country to tell us
Notre
what to
avenir
do.
nous appartient
Our future
en tant
is
que
ours to
Canadiens.
determine as
C'est
Canadians.
l'essence même
This
d'être maître chez nous.
is exactly what it means to be masters in
On
our own
August
house.
22nd, the United States of America imposed tariffs on 50% on approximately $28 billion in Canadian goods. Those tariffs will have real consequences for Canadian workers, businesses, and communities across our nation. Canada must respond, and today we are, in a proportionate, targeted, and strategic way. Today I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariffs dollar for dollar, rate for rate. Effective September 8, Canada will impose counter tariffs of up to 15, 25, or 50% on $27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America. For each product, our tariff would match the American tariff on the same type of Canadian good. Notre objectif est de protéger les travailleurs,
Our goal is to protect workers, producers, and Canadian manufacturers. As we see here this morning, we will place Canadian products in a better competitive position in the Canadian market. So this is the essence of what we were discussing with Philip this morning, to give a better chance to our workers to be competitive in Canada. Our response will target products in the steel and aluminum sector, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics.
Our existing counter tariffs, including those on automobiles, will remain in place. Canada's remission framework will also remain available to mitigate unintended consequences for Canadian businesses. Canada's counter tariffs are designed primarily to provide protection for Canadian industry impacted by U.S. tariffs and allow them to compete against U.S. products in the Canadian market. It's all about fairness, it's all about level playing field, it's all about supporting Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. Il est bon de se rappeler que le plus grand pouvoir que l'on a,
Let's remind ourselves that our greatest power
c'est notre propre pouvoir
is
d'achat.
our own
Je le
purchasing
disais hier,
power.
dans nos épiceries,
I was saying it
nos
yesterday,
quincailleries,
in our grocery
nos
stores,
entreprises
hardware
et à tous les
stores,
ordres de
businesses,
gouvernement,
and
on
at all
peut
levels of
choisir
government, we
d'acheter
can
canadien.
choose to buy Canadian,
On doit choisir
and we
d'acheter
must
canadien.
choose to buy Canadian.
Counter tariffs are only one part of our response. We must also provide businesses with liquidity and, most importantly, keep Canadians working. My colleagues, Minister Joly, Minister Hajdu, and Minister Solomon will present the new and very substantive measures under their respective programs. And I think workers, families, and communities around the nation will see that we're going to stand by you, as we have always done. As Minister of Finance, I will make changes to the large enterprise tariff loan facility to make it more flexible, more responsive, and better able to support major employers affected by tariffs across the country. And I will work closely with my colleagues, Minister Joly, in making sure that we do that as swiftly and efficiently as possible. In fact, our approach is guided by three principles that we have discussed among ministers, that we are committed: rapidity, simplicity, and agility. Because businesses facing immediate pressure need programs they can actually access quickly and efficiently. That is the feedback we receive. That is the commitment that we're all making to you today.
All right. So, Damp, I'm just going to make a little interruption here because we've been going on for a little bit, and just wanted to make sure that I went out and got myself a little sustenance there. So that's why I broke away. As you can see here, the Minister of Finance rehashing a lot of the elements that the Prime Minister had in his written statement on the day that we broke away from the talks, as well as more um, uh, from what the Prime Minister said in his address to us. But you've heard lines in there that were very familiar, like, the United States asked for too much and was offering too little, um, and things of the like that the Prime Minister said in that address. But announced that there was going to be about $7 billion, $7.5 billion in supports of some kind, I believe. And I believe that had announced that there would be counter tariffs on a wide range of particular industries, totaling just under $28 billion Canadian here. Also repeating the Prime Minister's line about what the United States demanding of us being uneconomic. And then there was a couple of other words, I think, uneconomic, the other thing, and unacceptable was the third one that François-Philippe Champagne used, which was a slightly different one than the Prime Minister used here. But that whole, essentially, same feeling here, that the United States was asking us to agree to stuff that would essentially be us agreeing to kill our industries or to deindustrialize, which was not going to happen. The minister gave an idea of a few sectors that would be hit. I would assume that sectors similar, having to do with autos and electronics and dairy and things like that, would be included in the list here. So let's go back to the minister and see if we can get if there's any additional specifics on the types of supports, or whether or not right now we're just getting a general number and we will be there. All right, for some reason it doesn't want to come back on screen. Let's try that one more time. There we go.
Canada can act because we enter this period from a position of strength. And I want Canadians to have confidence. We have the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7, the second fastest growing economy in the G7, and a AAA credit rating. Et la discipline budgétaire dont nous avons fait preuve,
And the budgetary discipline that we've had gives us the ability to support businesses and workers as long as it will be needed.
So in conclusion, when the United States of America asked too much and offered too little, we made a choice. We chose Canada. Nous avons choisi de défendre nos
We
travailleurs,
chose to defend our workers, our businesses, our culture, our official languages, and our ability to decide what our future will be.
to build Canada strong, because we are the true north, strong and free. Merci tout le monde.
Merci.
Okay, so I have to say that's a little disappointing because all he announced was global numbers and no specifics, general areas where we would hit back. Almost would have been better. Unless there are more things in some background documents that he's not taking time for, or that will come out in the question and answer. But right now, first impressions would have been better maybe to wait a day or two and actually have something more concrete. But hopefully, I'll go look and see if there's any backgrounders in that. We have Mona Fortier, a former president of the Treasury Board. Not sure if she has a position right now in this particular government. Someone I'm personally familiar with because we went to high school together, actually. There you go. So, hi, Mona. Yeah, let's see what we've got here, because I assume there will be a question and answer period, and I'm seeing here from the chat that there was indeed one.
François-Philippe. Thank you, François-Philippe. Thank you for your leadership, and also thank you for setting the scene for the next speech. And yes, you're correct. We are masters in our own home.
For Canada, we are standing up for Canada, and I would like now to invite Minister Mélanie Joly to present her chapter of today's announcement. Merci.
Okay, so I see what's happening here. Given that the supports have elements that are in various departments, each one is going to bring something, and I guess we're going to get an overall picture in the end. Let's keep track of what we're saying, see if Minister Joly has something more concrete, or if it's going to be in the same vein, sort of just a general top line announcement number and with more details to come. And while that's happening, I will keep searching to see if there are any background documents.
Thank you so much. Merci François-Philippe d'avoir présenté ça. Merci.
Thank you, François-Philippe, and thank you for the work that you've done so that we've been able to implement this tariff
We live
response.
in a much more complicated and dangerous world, and of course we take act of the U.S. decision. But to be frank, we've been on the front lines before, and when tariffs were imposed the first time, Canada acted quickly. We stood up for Canadian workers and businesses, and we supported the industries on the front lines, and we strengthened our economy so that Canada could weather the uncertainty. We were there then, and we are here now. And so I know that many business leaders, small entrepreneurs, workers across the country are anxious right now and concerned. We've been there, and we will be there. We will protect your business, we will protect your jobs. Donc, je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de préoccupations
I know that there are many concerns on behalf of small and medium-sized businesses, owners who are all of a sudden affected by these tariffs imposed by President Trump. We've been there in the past, and we're going to be there for you. We will provide support. We were there for Philippe and Claude because you were affected by the first wave of tariffs, and you also were able to keep your extraordinary gang of workers here, and so we're going to continue to provide support. Over the weekend, I met with my colleagues, the ministers responsible for regional development, to prepare a plan. I worked with Evan, Patty, and several others of my colleagues. I was in contact with some of my provincial counterparts, and I had discussions with Bernard Drainville from Quebec. We have to act fast to protect workers, businesses in Canada.
Later today to Alberta, to British Columbia and Ontario to meet with business leaders and workers directly affected by these tariffs, hear what they need from government, and make sure that our support is reaching those who need it the most. We will be agile and flexible, and we will continue to adapt as we go. We will not accept a bad deal that asks too much of Canada and offers too little in return. And of course, as François-Philippe just announced, we will respond to the U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar. My job in the context of this crisis is to present the support measures for industries affected by these tariffs. And so our government is introducing a $7.5 billion package of new enhanced measures. So this package includes a lot of support through different agencies. So if you're a small business right now, you have to contact either your regional development agency or the BDC, which you're potentially already working with. Small businesses, through the regional development agencies, will have access to $3 million of non-repayable loans, so basically grants for $3 million, and up to $2 million of interest-free loans. And the businesses that will be able to have access are around those that will have $1 million in revenues. That entire support through the regional development agencies, that may be ACOA in Atlantic Canada, DEC in Quebec, FedDev in Ontario, which Evan is in charge of, FedNor in Northern Ontario, which Patty is in charge of, Prairie Scan, which our colleague Eleanor is in charge of, and Pacific Can also in BC, which Gregor Robertson is in charge of, and Canor, which our colleague Rebecca Chartrand is in charge of, will all be ready to help you. Now, the other way we'll be able to help a lot of our small businesses is through the BDC, which will have $500 million to support through interest-free loans that will be between $250,000 to up to $5 million. And there will be no repayment, no capital actually to pay back to the BDC for the next 36 months. So after the Trump administration. And so what businesses will need to show is they only need to show that their cash flow will be impacted by the tariffs. So the cash flow forecast is clear that basically they'll be impacted by the tariffs. And finally, for bigger businesses, so medium and big businesses, we will work through the Strategic Response Fund, so through the Canada Strong Diversification Fund, to help businesses. And we are now putting $2 billion to support these medium-sized and big businesses. Donc, notre objectif présentement, c'est d'aider les petites et moyennes entreprises et également d'aider
small and medium-sized businesses as well as larger businesses. So for the smaller businesses, it will be the DEC in Quebec. There will be up to $3 million that would be provided as grants, and $2 million in liquidity support, so interest-free loans. We will also have a program through the BDC. The BDC will be able to provide interest-free loans. No capital will be reimbursed over the next 36 months. So after the Trump administration, businesses will have to demonstrate that their cash flow will be affected by the tariffs. And finally, we're going to have the Strategic Response Fund of $2 billion to help out large businesses affected. And we are going to act quickly, we're going to be agile, and our goal is to be able to respond quickly. During the first wave of support, we helped 1,000 businesses. We protected 36,000 jobs. We know that there will be a greater need because these tariffs are touching many industries.
We're able to support around 1,000 businesses across the country and protect 36,000 jobs. Right now, we know that there are many new sectors affected and, of course, many new businesses and jobs to be protected. The lesson from the first round of tariffs was clear. We cannot control the decisions made in Washington, but we can control what we build here at home. And we are already seeing Canadian companies step up like never before. These companies are showing us what Canada can do when we bet on ourselves. Voici comment nous gagnerons.
This is how we will win, by reinforcing our economy at home, by producing what we need, and by facilitating Canadian hiring, building, and construction.
Means having the capacity to produce, invest, and grow in Canada. Building at home is not a plan B. It is plan A. So, for many of you watching us right now, you may ask yourself, what can I do? What can I do to help? This morning, I had the chance to talk with many associations of retailers to really have them on board to make sure that at your grocers, at your local shop, that you understand what are the Canadian products. And I have their support to make sure that's the case. And we will push them to make sure that that's the case, because that's really how you can help. If you see a Canadian product, please support it.
All right. So we've got to interrupt here. I'm sure she has more to say about how we can help support. Here, I'm starting to understand a little bit more what the format is here. Champagne announced the top numbers, and we have here Joly coming up, and I think talking about the $7.5 billion specifically in supports. That first number, going through them, saying how they're tailored depending on the size of your organization and which one of the Canadian bodies, whether it be like the BDC, like the Business Development Bank, or any others, FedDev, Federal Development, regional economic agencies, stuff like that, which ones they go to get their assistance there. Lots of compliments about Mélanie Joly and the performance she is doing here. So that's great here. And then, of course, Linda, and as mentioned earlier in the press conference here, they were talking about Minister Patty Hajdu, who I believe is the Minister of Labour. So she will have the other sets of supports that François-Philippe Champagne spoke about. So I see here the structure here. He announces the top line numbers, and in that top line number, there's two numbers. There's support for industry and support for workers. We have the industry minister giving us more details about the support for industry, and the Minister of Labour giving us more support for workers. So that's good there. Thank you, Kitlinda, for having passed me that information there. So, and of course, somebody, Kitlinda noticed a subtle jab at Loblaws. Really? All right, let's keep on going with the Minister of Industry here and see if we have a little bit more to say here.
Because what is really important from this new chapter of the trade war is that actually when you choose a Canadian product, you're not only putting pressure on the US. Right now, you're protecting jobs, because the new companies that are affected by the tariffs are actually those that you may see at the grocery store or at your local Canadian Tire. That's what you can do. And that's how we can launch this movement of resistance to what is happening to us. Et donc, c'est pour ça que c'est si important présentement.
That is why it's so important to buy Canadian, because these new tariffs are not just on steel, aluminum, and the automobile sector. That was painful, but now It's affecting companies that you might find at the grocery store or in different stores that you might be going to, because the new tariffs are being imposed on sectors such as beverages, food products, forestry products, including hockey sticks. So you do have a certain measure of power. And this morning I spoke with the Quebec Council of retailers to make sure that it be very clear to indicate in the stores what are Canadian products, what are Quebec products.
To work with new allies and also with our trading partners, because we need to position Canada as a partner of choice of investment, trade, and security. We'll continue to make sure that our businesses have access to more markets, more investments, and more opportunities for Canadians. So we're choosing our own course. We cannot wait for Washington to decide our future. We're strengthening our economy and building a more sovereign Canada. Merci beaucoup. Merci, merci. Merci, merci.
All right, so that was the Minister of Industry there, making the point also that's very important if we want to help that when we are buying Canadian products, as not only are we, resisting and not only are we supporting Canada, not only are we giving the Prime Minister some backing, when the numbers drop on the United States side, but we are supporting workers and supporting those businesses today. We're supporting our fellow Canadians, and it's important to ensure that we do that. Kelly here saying these tariffs will hit Ontario hardest. We have to pivot with automotive fast. Yes, we do agree here on that one. So let me see here. There are a couple of news releases. This is the backgrounder, which is the one I am looking for here. So what Mélanie Joly has been talking about here is the Regional Tariff Response Initiative, specifically here. And these are going to be $7.5 billion of new and enhanced measures to protect Canadian workers and businesses, building on the nearly $25 billion in supports the government has implemented over the past 18 months. This targeted and proportionate packages focuses on workers and businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises and sectors most affected by the new tariffs announced by the United States. Effective September 2026, the government will bolster the Regional Tariff Response Initiative delivered by Canada's 7 regional development agencies by $1.5 billion. This will help small and medium-sized enterprises respond to tariff pressures. The cap on non-repayable contributions will be increased from $1 million to $3 million, which will now include support for demonstrated liquidity needs in addition to existing support for pivot or capital investment plans, and liquidity support available will be up to $2 million. The Business Development Bank of Canada, through it, the government will introduce a second $500 million liquidity stream through the BDC's Pivot to Grow program to provide working capital to business facing cash flows shortfalls as a result of U.S. tariffs. This new liquidity system will be added to providing working capital support for small and medium-sized businesses facing immediate cash flow pressures. This program will be available to companies directly impacted by tariffs regardless of sector. Companies will be eligible for loans ranging from $250,000 to $500 million, interest-only payments over 36 months. The process will be simplified, so you don't start paying interest on these loans until 36 months or 3 years after. Eligibility for BDC's direct tariff-related support programs will be expanded by lowering annual revenue requirements for applicants to $1 million. This includes Pivot to Grow as well as targeted support programs for steel, aluminium, and forestry sectors. So in other words, if your numbers have already been taken a hit and therefore your business number isn't as big as it was, your annual revenue requirement isn't as big because you haven't been selling so much, they're actually lowering that amount to reflect that in order to make it easier for people to qualify. And then we have Canada Strong Diversification Fund that says effective immediately, the government is creating the Canada Strong Diversification Fund. So this is a new one. a new stream of the Strategic Response Fund with an additional $2 billion in funding. This fund will have expanded flexibility to support tariff-impacted companies with shovel-ready projects that support ongoing capital maintenance, including medium-sized firms. This new initiative will work closely with Regional Development Agency programming for project intake and triage. A fast-track one-step project review and approval process will also be implemented to get projects moving faster. So in other words, this is sort of like a major projects office type thing, but for smaller projects, where the people who administer this fund, in order to choose those who will receive the funding, are going to be doing it in a more fast-track one-step project review, right, to get projects moving faster. So in other words, given that there might be a decreased economic activity based on lower trade with the United States, if we have some projects in the works that are pretty much shovel ready and just waiting to go through the process and get those final approvals, let's do that part more quickly so we could get that economic activity going now, so they show up in the numbers earlier, and therefore it doesn't look like we're taking too bad of a hit. So that's what's there in that one. So these are good initiatives. This third one is a new one, specifically to just basically try to work through some backlog and get more people working faster and more things approved quickly. There's a rapid response support for workers and employers, and that's going to be other money that I assume is going to be addressed here by Patty Hajdu. So we will go back to the press conference and hear Mona Fortier talk a little bit, introduce Minister Hajdu, and see what it is that she has to announce in terms of supports.
Merci Mélanie. Et moi, ce que j'entends, c'est agile.
What I'm hearing is agile, rapid, and flexible. These things are very important today.
Regional economic development agencies and the BDC are strategic instruments that will help us go through the next phase, but also build on those economic regional agencies that understand what's happening coast to coast to coast. And now to talk about the next chapter of this announcement, I would like to introduce Patty Hajdu, Minister of Jobs and Families and Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Northern Ontario. Merci beaucoup, Patty, d'être ici aujourd'hui.
Thank you, Patty, for being here.
I'm going to use the water.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Can I take it? Yeah, thanks.
Merci Philippe et toute l'équipe
Thank
chez
you,
Ideal of
Philippe,
votre travail,
and thank you to
vos
all
efforts.
my
C'est
colleagues.
très
Thank you for your
important
efforts and your work. It's so important for the entire economy
les employés qui,
and the
vous avez
workers.
maintenant. I'm really pleased to be here at Ideal, and I also want to acknowledge that this is a unionized shop and, in fact, represented by the United Steelworkers, and Kevon Stewart is here somewhere, and his team. Thank you so much for being a strong partner in this work. And there are many other union representatives here today. I'm not going to list you all, but it's important that you're here because what you do is fight for good quality jobs every single day. And what you also know is that the success of your members, the success of the workers that you represent is dependent on the success of the business. And these two things are intertwined. As the Minister of Labour, I can tell you, I've seen that dance, and it's an important dance, but it's very important that everyone remembers that in order for workers to succeed, companies have to succeed. And these two things fit together. And so I'm really happy that you're here today representing the workers from across the country that are building Canada Strong, that are doing big things across this country, that are actually the backbone of a very important plank of how we are going to not just withstand these tariffs, but grow through them and actually be the masters of our own destiny, as the Prime Minister says. In fact, I was with the operating engineers just yesterday in Kananaskis, and we got a greeting from the president of the International Union of Operating Engineers. And the president, President Downey, said, not only are they supportive of what Canada is doing, but they're supportive particularly of the Liberal government and of Mark Carney in stepping up for workers all across this country. And they sent a message, which is don't give up, which is to continue to fight for your economy, for your sovereignty, and build the big things that are actually going to drive us forward. And so I just want to once again thank the union members, because you've been with us since the beginning. You've been side by side as we announced the Major Projects Office, as we talked about Build Canada Strong, as we've developed the number of different supports that are going into creating the ports, the roadways,
They're supporting
all the things. You're building all the things. And it's not the first time, by the way, as Mélanie and François-Philippe have talked about, that we've faced these unjust tariffs and economic attacks. In fact, I'm from Northern Ontario, and I can tell you that we've seen this in softwood lumber and in pulp and paper over many, many years. And so this is an experience that workers are familiar with, and it's why there's so much worry and anxiety across Canada, because people have felt the impact of these things before. Yes, not on the same scale, at the same speed that we've seen, but certainly in pockets of industry that have faced unjust tariffs, faced economic warfare, and that has a direct impact on livelihoods, on families, and indeed deeply on communities. Employers, just like Ideal here, have worked tirelessly. You've just heard 100 years, 4 generations of work to build up businesses that our communities actually count on to drive the economy of local communities as well. And now they are facing uncertain paths forward. And so all of that worry and anxiety makes it really difficult to plan for the future. It has an effect of sort of freezing people in place. Should I make that investment? Should I buy that new house? Should I take that vacation? Should I add on to my business? Should I add a product line? And that is the challenge, is it can freeze our economy, it can freeze the ambition of our businesses, and it can freeze the autonomy of our individual Canadians. And that's why we're here today.
Now, Minister Hajdu making an absolutely amazing comment here. Right? It's one of the things that we often forget when we have these conversations about tariffs, and I try to remind you every now and then, but even I forget. It's like, sometimes it's not the tariffs, it's just the threat of them. You know they're coming, they've been threatened. People start making investment decisions almost right away, right, as a result. So Minister Hajdu here bringing the attention here that, just this environment in general, any morning we could wake up and boom, there's a new 50% tariff for something, right? Really affects everything. This is not a normal that we want to get used to. This is not a new normal that we like. Let's put it that way here. And not one that's helpful to us in any way. There's nobody in the world that is better off as a result of having made a deal with the United States lately, with maybe the possible exception of Russia.
Is we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Together, we're going to put into place these measures. We're going to build on measures to make sure that people have the confidence to take the steps they need to grow their business, to get those new skills, to be ambitious in their own personal lives and the business life that they're involved in. And this growth is actually dependent deeply on a skilled and talented source of labor. And that's why we've acted so urgently as we've seen these tariffs. Canadians have been supported and trained through the new workforce tariff response agreement with provinces and territories. All of them have signed now. And this is an additional investment of $570 million. It's helping 66,000 tariff-affected workers upskill or retrain as the market demands evolve. And as the unjust tariffs began to hit, the federal government introduced a number of temporary worker support measures that would provide that income stability for affected workers. And this support has helped thousands of Canadians who face job losses or slowdowns. To help employers keep their workers, even when business was slow, we made the work sharing program easier to access. Keeping skilled workers during slow times means that businesses can retain the talent, and it helps workers weather tough times for their employers. In 2025, our measures have averted about 25,000 layoffs. We also introduced the Worker Retention Grant, which helps provide employers a top-up pay to their workers, which helps them maintain closer to normal income levels as they take that training during non-worker time. You can see what we're trying to do is make sure that when a company has that time to pivot to new products, to new markets, to new processes, they don't lose all the talent that they spent years developing. It can be another hit to a business's growth if they can't keep that talent in place. We also improved Job Bank, adding training finders to make it easier to find training programs that meet the needs of workers and businesses. And for those workers who lost their jobs entirely, we introduced significant temporary measures to the EI program so that workers could get EI benefits efficiently, and those measures have helped. But the imposition of new tariffs means that additional threats to our workers, businesses, and communities are significant, and we need to continue to do more.
So here, Minister Hajdu here talking on surface a little bit of various programs that we have or that can be put in place to ensure that companies do retain their intellectual capital, right? If a company closed down, everybody gets fired and everybody has to disperse. And okay, economic things are better are good again. Like think of it as a street hockey game, right? We're all playing car, but then all the kids, rather than staying by the side of the road, decide to go home because the car is traveling at 0.264 kilometers an hour. It's going to take forever to get through the hockey space. Right? And then it's like, game on. Well, there's nobody around anymore. That's what happens when you get these shocks, right? You have to make a hard decision. You're going to lay off, you got 10 employees, you're laying off 7. You can barely make the thing work. And, okay, now we're gone again. But, well, those 7 people had to eat in the meantime, so they're gone. They're doing other things now. Right? So these types of measures prevent that type of corporate loss. And that's invaluable. That's an intangible you can't calculate, right? All the knowledge that's in someone's head. You've had an employee working for you because there's no such thing as an unskilled job. It's some job that requires some type of manual labor or process and has been doing it for 20 years, and that person's just got it down like that. The efficiency of movement, it's almost like watching ballet. Seeing them go from one thing to another, making stuff happen. Right? Because they so know it. That stuff, that's practice, that's that type of knowledge, that type of experience, whatnot. There's a value to that, and people don't actually attribute a value to that and calculate and figure out how much you're actually losing. But there's a value to that. If people did the work, they could calculate it and attribute a dollar figure to it. Right? So Patty Hajdu is talking about these types of things. Very important. I'm also listening to all these things, and I'm thinking about poor Bob Rae. Right? When he was Premier of Ontario back in the day and we got hit with that recession, he was proposing things like job sharing and all that kind of stuff. And everybody lost their minds. Like this was the absolute worst thing that we could do to them. Oh my God. And now look there, when we get crises, particularly like pandemics, global crises and things like this, they are the first strategies that we resort to. Proven once again that many years later, even though at the time people didn't like it and found it really unpopular, that the Ontario NDP at the time under Bob Rae did make the economic decisions that needed to be made at the time that prevented things from being so much worse than they could have been. That party and that leader does not get enough credit. Back in hindsight, right? The Ontario NDP were the butt of every joke for the longest time after that term. The one term that they got to form government, because it happened during a huge recession and they took measures to put people first and racked up a lot of debt in the process. It's amazing how we look back at that now 20, 30 years later and I was yeah, it turns out they did the right thing now. And now that we've had a pandemic, it's kind of me, like me with tennis. I actually noticed that. The first year I played the tournament, first match I played, some guy beat me 6-0, 6-0 because he found out that if he just slice served me, there was no way I could get to it. And he just did that all match. And I was really insulted at the end because I'm figuring, well, gee, man, when you knew, like when it was 6-0, 4-0, when you knew you were pretty much going to win, couldn't you just let me hit a ball? Why did you have to be such a dick about it? And now I've just played 3 matches in 19 hours, and I kind of figured out now, okay, so that's why the guy was merciless with me when he beat me 6-0, 6-0, because, if you have a good chance at winning this thing and you might be playing 6 matches over the course or 7 matches over the course of 3 days, if you have an opportunity to win 6-0, 6-0, you take it because that's a lot of matches in a short period of time. He wasn't being a dick, he was being efficient. I gained with further information 6 years later in my life and more experience in the field. I actually gained an appreciation for what it is that he did all those years before that I thought was a dick move. I had more understanding, I had more experience. The light went on. Oh my God. All these years I've been seeing you at the club, so yeah, that's the guy that, that did that dick thing. It's like, oh, you know what? You are forgiven now, buddy. I was wrong. I know better now. Right? We know better now. So now there are go-to strategies because we learned that, giving money to an employer so somebody could work half time, let's say, and get paid for the other half time. That way, that company does not lose that person, that resource, everything that's in their head, all the knowledge that is in their body. And they don't have to go look for that again once it is there. Because, and with half the salary and half government supports, someone won't be made whole, but can be sustained with a certain level of comfort and a minimum quality of life. And then when things pick back up again, it's much easier for us to rejoin the regularly scheduled program. We just learned that with COVID, with everything that we did, right? We saw the Justin Trudeau government that was apparently, if you listen to the Conservatives, so economically inept, actually managed to engineer the near mythical, because I had never seen it done before in my lifetime up until now, soft landing out of an economic crisis. We basically went, woo, boing, back up. If you look at the graphs. Right? They actually did it well. Conservatives will never give them the credit. Our press will never give them the credit. But they actually managed just out of it, not only health-wise and program-wise, but economically, rather well. We've learned. So Patty Hajdu is bringing this learning here. Not just from COVID, but from like decades and decades. All right, let's go back to Ms. Hajdu here and see what else we've got here with regard to some of these programs and supports.
We are not going to compromise our sovereignty, our culture. We're not going to weaken our key sectors. That is not a good deal.
So we will double down to ensure workers and businesses can weather this storm. Canada will invest an additional $3.5 billion over 4 years to provide the stability that our economy and our people need during this time. So for workers, we'll extend those 3 EI temporary measures already in place by up to 1 year. The 1-week EI waiting period will continue to be waived so that claimants can receive benefits the minute they lose their job. Workers will continue to be able to access EI benefits immediately without exhausting any severance pay. That's vacation pay, any time accrued, so that support starts quickly and all severance money stays with the worker. 20 additional weeks of regular benefits will continue to be available for long-tenured workers, so that workers who need more time to find new employment have the access to additional weeks of income support.
Okay. The previous measure about Canadians not having to use their severance or vacation time or stuff for this, that is chef kiss, because this vacation time and severance and sick days and all that kind of stuff, those are benefits we get for our work. And if somebody from the outside is going to come and upend our work, and there are government support programs, there is no reason for which the benefits that we've received from past labor, the labor that happened before these changes are to come along, should be used to cover costs to the government from supporting us. Those are our benefits and our things. We've worked for them, we've earned them, they are ours. And that this government is acknowledging that and respecting that, not asking us to sacrifice that. That, again, it's a very, very, very tiny detail. But when you're in the moment and it's happening, and you realize that you get to keep that, you don't have to worry about that being clawed back in some way. That's an incredible weight off your shoulders. It is peace of mind that it's worth its weight in gold. So very, very supportive of that aspect of this announcement.
And the best news for workers is when they stay in their workplace, even during slower times, it's good news for their employers. So we're going to enhance the worker retention and retraining program to go even further than the existing measures to help employers keep their workers even in periods of reduced operations. Employers will be able to reduce employees' work schedules to as little as 2 days per week, while workers receive EI benefits to help replace a portion of their lost earnings on days not worked. When the employer arranges for training activities in the off days, the income replacement will be 70% of total earnings, as opposed to 55% of insurable earnings under the previous work sharing program.
Okay, I like this too. If you companies can have you on a 40% work schedule, 2 days out of 5, and you'll still get support. But if on those days that you are not working, you are doing something to retrain instead of just 55% support, about 70%, I think she said, or 75, I'm not sure, I can't remember off the top of my head, but a significantly higher amount of support. And why shouldn't you be getting more support? Because you are going out and you are doing something that is going to increase your earning potential. You're acquiring new skills, new abilities, so that when the system comes back on and everything is going back normal, maybe like happened after COVID, all those people that worked in the service industry that went out and gotten retrained and had better jobs after, and that way we now created a staffing shortage that, then created the temporary resident thing and the immigration thing as a result, because a lot of positions had to be staffed. But I can imagine that during those 2 or 3 years when everything was going on with COVID, if there were a lot of people in the service industry, particularly women, who were tired of having their asses grabbed while they worked, maybe did something about that in those past 2 or 3 years and found better situations. Just saying. This is going to happen too, right? And we're better off for that because all of these people now have higher earning potential, which means that they are paying higher taxes, which means more money for the economy, more money for the government, more money for programs. So why wouldn't we compensate you more when you're out going to do something that can concretely, and it can be measured, add more to government coffers? Completely makes sense. Completely makes sense. Kit Linda here saying, I feel like they analyzed our responses to the first tariffs and did what they could to improve benefits this time. And that was one of those things I was saying, right? If we were doing this post-COVID evaluation, that's one of those things, the benefits, how did they work, how to make them better. I guess they maybe got some feedback in real time and did do that. And maybe that's why we didn't need to do the post-thing study, because indeed it does seem that it was added here. Kit Tabby G going that severance move is huge. Absolutely. Absolutely. This seems like I would be very interested in hearing what Abby Lewis of the NDP has to say about these packages once they're out there. I'd be very, very interested to see what his take would be. Okay, let's go back to Minister Hajdu.
And the program will include a new $1,000 training dollar bonus per employee And this will be delivered with regional development agencies so that those small and medium-sized enterprises can get the help that they need very quickly. And we'll make it easier for employers to access the program by reducing red tape and administration burdens. These new supports are designed to be strong and flexible, and they're built on what we heard from industry through the first round of work-sharing programs. And I want to thank everyone, including Forest Products of Canada, who I spoke with last night, about how to make this program actually fly for employers. This is about keeping that talent in place, giving workers the support they need so they can focus on supporting their employer to grow new products and to grow new markets. For workers, it's also a sign that we know a job is more than a paycheck. It's a purpose, it's a career. And the more people that can keep their jobs, their current jobs, the healthier and more productive our communities remain. But for those that lose their jobs, even with those supports for employers, we're going to make it even easier to get employment insurance. We're going to amend the reasons for separation rule, which ends and will end the penalization of access to EI benefits for workers who recently chose to change jobs. De plus, nous suspendons ce qu'on
We will
appelle
suspend
la règle relative
what we
au
call
motif de cessation d'emploi, mettant ainsi fin à
the
la
1 week
pénalisation effective en matière d'accès
week rule,
aux allocations chômage
so that
pour les
workers will
salariés
obtain
qui ont
EI
récemment
immediately.
choisi de changer d'emploi.
I hope that these proposed EI changes are some that are going to remain permanent, not just for this particular occasion, because that system needs a serious overhaul. And these seem like decent changes. Let's keep going.
Shouldn't be penalized from accessing employment insurance if you left a job recently to get a different job. And so we're going to make sure that you can access EI if, in fact, you've lost your new job. And we'll make sure that Job Bank has the best information available about what jobs are out there, including on major projects, in defense investments, or through community investments. And we'll work to make sure that job seekers are more easily connected to this valuable service. So you can see from the package of measures that Mélanie and François-Philippe and I have spoken about today that we're not taking these attacks on our economy lying down, because Canadians are fighters who stand up for their businesses and for their families and for their communities. And so we're making sure that the tools that we need to pivot to new markets, to change products or services and come out stronger than ever are there now and for as long as it takes to weather this storm. Because Canadians know how to navigate storms. They know, just like unions, that by standing up together, sticking up for each other and finding new paths, we actually can get through anything. And these measures today will serve as the tools for the next part of our fight to build Canada strong. Thank you very much. Very good.
All right. Don't know what Avi Lewis is saying here yet about it, but I'll go and take a check and see if there's anything about it. Seeing here on the chat, thanks to Kit. Who mentioned it here? Kit Linda saying that Jason Kenney is on right now and just said that the response sounds like it's right. Okay. That's an interesting one. I saw another chat here. Bingo card fail. Rachel Notley and Jason Kenney tag teaming on keeping Alberta Canadian. That was from Kit Chavi. I have no idea what that's about, but I am intrigued. If you can send me more information, please. I would like that. All right. So going to the backgrounder and looking at the elements that could be there with regard to what Minister Hajdu just said. Talking about the rapid response supports for workers and employers, the government is introducing a new suite of $3.5 billion rapid response supports for workers and employers to help Canadians affected by tariffs. This will enable workers to access income support when they need it by extending by 1 year the temporary EI measure to waive the 1 week waiting period, extending by 1 year the temporary EI measure that allows workers to receive EI benefits without first using up their separation payments, such as severance or vacation pay, extending by 8 months the temporary EI measure that provides an extra 20 weeks of EI regular benefits for long-tenured workers, and introducing a new temporary measure for 1 year so that workers who have voluntarily left jobs in recent months are no longer penalized when they want to access EI as long as their most recent job loss is through no fault of their own. This will also help them move quickly into new opportunities by increasing supports to match workers with jobs on jobbank.gc.ca, including highlighting opportunities made available through investments in major projects, Build Canada Homes, and defense procurement. With regard to helping employers, this will also assist employers in keeping their workforce through a difficult period. A new workforce retention and retraining program will be established. Sorry, let's try that again. A new workforce and retention and retraining program will be established, combining the existing EI work sharing program and worker retention grant into a single streamlined program designed to be more accessible and generous. Under this single offering, new and existing work sharing flexibilities will be supported, and employers will be eligible for additional funds to cover training and administrative costs up to $1,000 per participant. Then there's the Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Facility. The government is providing new flexibilities to the $10 billion Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Facility administered by the Canadian Enterprise Emergency Funding Corporation, the Canada Enterprise Emergency Funding Corporation, to provide the flexible liquidity needed to bridge large employers through this period of uncertainty by increasing the size of liquidity supports from 24 to 36 months of company liquidity needs and increasing the maximum loan term from 10 to 15 years. So that's the backgrounder on the suite of measures that are available and that will be made available, and people will find out more about them as they start to look into them. But that is what's there at the moment. The news release itself from the department has basically highlights elements of the package that we've listed and talked about more in depth. So I will not repeat them here. But it is introduced by saying the government of Canada has negotiated intensively and in good faith with the United States toward a fair and comprehensive trade agreement that would protect Canadian workers and their families, strengthen the economy, provide greater certainty for businesses, and respect Canada's sovereignty. In recent days, however, the US proposed new terms that were not in Canada's best interest, basically asking too much of Canada and offering too little in return. Canada therefore suspended negotiations rather than accepting a bad deal that would undermine Canadian workers, businesses, strategic sectors, and our national interest. Canada did not choose this trade conflict, but we need to respond to provide a level playing field to our businesses. Today, the Minister of Finance and National Revenue, the Honourable François-Philippe Champagne, the Minister of Industry and Minister responsible for Canada Economic Development for Quebec Regions, the Honourable Mélanie Joly, and the Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation and Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, the Honourable Evan Solomon, and the Minister of Jobs and Families and Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Northern Ontario, the Honourable Patty Hajdu, announced measures to protect and support Canadian workers and businesses during this period of uncertainty and volatility. So I don't know if we're going to hear from Evan Solomon next at this press availability because I did not see him in the back there. Following the U.S. decision to impose a 50% tariff on $27.6 billion of Canadian goods effective August 22nd, Minister Champagne confirmed today that Canada will match the new U.S. tariffs dollar for rate, with additional Canadian tariffs on U.S. goods. This focused response will protect Canadian workers, farmers, fishers, families, and businesses, defend industries harmed by unjustified U.S. tariffs, and help Canadian producers compete with U.S. products in the Canadian market. Effective September 8, Canada will impose counter tariffs of 15%, 25%, and 50% on products drawn from those targeted by U.S. Section 338 and Section 232 tariffs, with the rate for each product matching the corresponding U.S. rate. Canada's counter tariffs will apply to products covering $27.6 billion in imports from the U.S. and will focus on sectors such as steel, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics that are most impacted by U.S. tariffs. In addition to support Canadian workers and businesses impacted by U.S. tariffs, the government is also introducing a $7.5 billion package of new and enhanced measures that deliver fast and simple agile supports to Canadian workers and businesses, building on the nearly $25 billion in supports the government has provided since the implementation of the U.S. unjustified tariffs. And those were all the things that I read to you following the first intervention, or the second intervention, I should say, by Minister Joly. So there you go, kids and cubs. Those are the big news. I don't know if there is a Q&A section after this, but let's go back to the event and see what it is that we have happening next here.
Merci, Patty. Thank you, Patty. And
Thank you,
this
Patty.
chapter is really important because workers are key to our economy, and the response and the package that you just unpacked here is really important. And I know workers are very curious and will have to go and check how they will be supported. But you just laid out a lot in such little time, but you demonstrated that working with industry and finding ways to support workers is our response, and thank you for that. Alors maintenant, pour pouvoir entendre un peu plus ce qui se passe via, entre autres,
to hear further about what's happening with regards to regional development agencies, I will ask Evan Solomon,
Minister of Artificial Intelligence, Digital Innovation, and also Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency of Southern Ontario, to come in and share his chapter on today's announcement.
Merci, Mona.
Thank you, Mona.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci,
Hello, everyone.
Minister Champagne,
Thank you,
Joly,
Minister Champagne,
Hajdu,
Joly,
Giovanna, great to
Hajdu.
see you here. Lots of great colleagues. Et merci à Claude et Philippe.
And thank
et
you
à
to
toute
Claude and
l'équipe ici
Philippe and the entire
d'Ideal
team
Roofing
here at Ideal Roofing.
de nous accueillir aujourd'hui.
Thank you for
Quelle
welcoming
entreprise
us.
formidable
What a
ici,
great
Deutsche
business here.
Canadien franco-ontarien.
A
C'est
Franco-Ontarian
vraiment une
business.
compagnie merveilleuse.
It's a fantastic company.
Some of the employees I've met 34 years, some a year. We're here to ensure that a company founded almost 100 years ago is here for the next 100 years, like many companies. This is FedDev territory, and we are glad to partner. Look, as my colleagues have said today, the message today is about protecting workers. Incredible men and women behind us right now, businesses, and building a more resilient country. We didn't ask for this trade conflict, but we're ready for it. As the Prime Minister said, we're always ready to make a good deal, but we won't sign a bad deal. We won't now, we won't ever. Prime Minister said that we're already giving ourselves more than anyone can take away, and we are just getting started. We have a plan, and you heard the outlines of it today, to protect our workers and to build this country stronger. So that's the message today. We're not going to bend. We're not going to break. We're going to build. And that's what we're doing. We're going to make sure Canadian workers, Canadian businesses keep building. And that's why we're here today. And that's what we've been doing since we were elected as the new government. And as the minister responsible for federal economic development here in Southern Ontario, every day I get to talk to businesses, and I travel the province to meet entrepreneurs and manufacturers and workers who are building this country strong. And I speak to owners who in this context want to protect their workers and their communities. And I just want to welcome, as Patty did, our partners in this. The people you see in front of us are our partners, and I want to thank them. The automakers, the trade unions, Chamber of Commerce, steelworkers, Carpenters Regional Council. Thank you. We're with you. We're working with the workers. As Patty said, as Mel said, as François-Philippe said, we are here. Thank you for your support. And whether it's in Windsor or Waterloo or Vaughan or Hamilton or London or in Ottawa, Toronto, or right here at Ideal Roofing, we see the same thing from our workers and our businesses. Canadians want to adapt, they want to innovate, and they want to build. I was in Lindsay and Peterborough last week. I was at Mariposa Dairy, over 200 people. Like Ideal Roofing, family started, family run, pillar of the community there. Armada Tool Works, family run, also great company, employing more than 200 people. They're creating good jobs, they're innovating, they're exporting, and they're building their communities, and they're leaning in to the future. They're not backing down. And that's important, because as we know, businesses like Ideal Roofing, like across Ontario and the country, are facing real uncertain times. But the businesses like Ideal Roofing, Canadian businesses, aren't standing still. They're focused on what comes next. And that's what today is all about. Our response is about investing in Canadians, in builders and innovators and businesses that will make the country more resilient and stronger as we emerge from this crisis. And that's why our government is investing another $1.5 billion through the Regional Tariff Response Initiative, delivered through our regional development agencies to help small, medium-sized businesses. We say that, but these are communities. These are people. These are moms and dads who are coaching hockey. Make sure they have those jobs, manage the tariff-related pressures, and continue investing in the future. And they're partners. And I always say that the regional development agencies are like the forward operating base of the federal government. They are close to the ground. They work incredibly closely with businesses. They know the communities. They know the chambers of commerce. They know the leaders. They know the ground up. And that's why they are such a critical part of our response. When uncertainty hits, relationships matter, and we know that businesses need more than words of encouragement. They need investment, they need partnerships, and they need confidence, and that's what the plan that the Finance Minister, Industry Minister, ESDC for Patty, that's what we've outlined today. And let me just say that Ideal Roofing is maybe the best example. Depuis presque d'un siècle ici, Ideal Roofing contribue à
For
bâtir
almost
la
100 years, Ideal
canadienne
Roofing
à
has
l'économie de
been
notre
here
pays.
helping to build the
Founded
economy of the
right here
country.
in Ottawa, 1929. Tough year. The company now employs 350 people. As you see, manufactures metal roofing and siding, steel built here in Canada, supporting Canadian to build houses across this country, and that's what we're doing as a government. And like so many manufacturers, Ideal Roofing's felt the impact of tariffs, the trade uncertainty. They export. We got the best businesses in the world here. We're exporting around the world. We want to continue that.
Okay, I don't mean to cut off. Well, actually, I do mean to cut off Evan Solomon, because for someone who has so little to announce, he sure is doing a lot of talking. A little performative, yeah. Get saucy here, because everybody else announced something that was substantially larger than what he had. In fact, the thing he announced was something I thought was already included in something from Mélanie Joly, and I had already read it in. So, yeah, Evan. So yeah, the Regional Tariff Response Initiative, which was the first part here that I mentioned. Effective September 26th, the government will bolster the Regional Tariff Response Initiative delivered by Canada's 7 regional development agencies by $1.5 billion. This will help small and medium-sized enterprises respond to tariff pressures. The cap on non-repayable contributions will be increased from $1 million to $3 million, which will now include support for demonstrated liquidity needs in addition to existing support for pivot or capital investment plans. And the liquidity support available will be up to $2 million in value. Yeah, just he announced it, and he's talking and talking and talking and talking, and says, okay, I know you're putting concept and context and relating, but like, you had the least to say out of everybody there, so you should not be on stage longest. Yes. Yeah, and that was the same thing I was noticing actually when he was answering the questions about what's happening with AI in Tumbler Ridge, and had and was able to talk fast and say a lot of things that were interesting about the subject, but was not able to give an answer specifically as to why it is the law should be such that there is no obligation to report. Why we are still using suggestions or maybe some slight coercion or stuff like that, or nudging, but just not making it a requirement. That's all that's needed here. So I'm have it here on fast forward, and just with the captions here, and letting them watch them talk, and he is going on for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes about that same thing that he was still on, trying to relate, but not having anything substantive or meaningful to say. Lots of reassurance, important, but yeah, nothing much more there. Finally done, and hopefully we will be moving to the question and answer period here. Just watching Mona Fortier here speak a little bit here, trying to trying to synthesize everything that has been said today. And she said here, I can see that the Canadian media is ready. So let's go back to where that is and see what it is that they have to, what questions are going to be asked and answered. Hopefully, we'll have some good questions and some good answers. I'm not sure how much more that the people up on stage are going to be able to say about their programs other than the broad strokes that they have given so far. But let's entertain a couple of questions and see if there's anything going on here that more of a value that we can glean from these answers.
We'll be the one moderating the question and answer period.
Okay, hold on. Just got to make sure that the speed is okay. There we go.
Veuillez mentionner votre nom, votre média et préciser à qui s'adresse votre question. Ce sera une question et une question de suivi. We'll now move to question for the next 25 minutes. Please state your name, your media, and who the question is for. It will be one question and one follow-up.
Yeah, hi Ministers. Ryan Tumulty, Toronto Star. I hope you'll stick around for many questions from my colleagues today.
As always.
But to start with, today you are bringing in retaliatory tariffs. You are not bringing in any export levies on Canadian energy or Canadian potash, two areas that are critical to the U.S. economy. I'm wondering why you're not using those levers now, and if you might use them in the future.
Well, let me start. We have always said from the get-go that we would be strategic, proportionate, and that we would respond in a way that serves Canada's best interest. What you see today is a number of tariffs, and we have been consulting broadly. I think you heard that from Minister Joly as well, and we have done that for a long time. You know, sadly, we have been in this trade conflict for quite some time, so we know the products that needs to be tariffed. We have been consulting, for example, with the steel industry. We've been consulting with Alu Quebec. We have been consulting with manufacturers across the nation. And what is different and what you have heard today is that the new tariff imposed by the U.S. administration is going to be disproportionately affecting small and medium-sized businesses. That's why we're here today, and that's why we have decided to put I would say, a very substantial support package. You're talking about $7.5 billion to support workers and to support industry. But you have to get back to first principle. This is about protecting a Canadian industry impacted by U.S. tariff, and I've said it yesterday, this is about the level playing field. We want to make sure that companies like the one we're here this morning can be selling and be competitive in the Canadian market. That's what's driving our response today. That's what's going to drive our response for the days and the weeks and the months ahead.
Can I add?
Sure.
I think when we're looking at, first, the Prime Minister has said that everything was on the table yesterday, and at the same time, this is, we think for now, the most strategic approach. Because when we're looking at the counter tariffs, we're looking first at protecting the businesses that are affected here, because if they were exporting to the US, we need to make sure that the competitors don't have access to the Canadian market in a better way than their own, products. And that's why the retailers need to show that the product is from Canada. For a second, we're also targeting products that will target states in the US. And so we're being wise and strategic to put political pressure. And that's why we think it's the right thing to do right now. And that's why I think François-Philippe's approach is just the perfect one for now.
All right. On that front, a couple of days ago, maybe about a week ago, I talked to you about 9 races that CNN was following to flip the Senate. And they had the states in order of most likely to least likely to flip. And among those states, we had North Carolina being most likely to flip to Democrat, and then Maine most likely to flip to Democrat, and then let's see, Michigan, which is there, which I'm not sure if the Democrats still already hold that one there, and that would be a retain. Ohio, Alaska, Iowa, Texas, and New Hampshire, and last but not least, Georgia. Now, looking at those races based on what's going on lately, because this article from CNN that I'm referring to was written, let's see, on August 10th. So I did some research and looked for those 9 races, right, with a more updated polling. So for North Carolina, it's saying that the Democrats right now are polling at a +4 to +6 margin. That was Republican held. That one will flip. Now the Democrats need to flip 4, a net of 4. So that's one. Maine, that's where Susan Collins is, who you might have been seeing on the news the last couple of days because J.D. Vance was in Maine making some weird claims about Canada, and Susan Collins was very much hoping that he would shut up. Because this is not helping her. The polling margin here has the Democrats with a 2 to 4 point lead, and this would be another flip. So that would be 2 of the 4, and they are the most likely to go. Michigan is the other one. It seems that there will be no incumbent in this one. I think this is the seat for which Mr. Al Sayed, you might have been seeing a lot on your social medias. The Democrat candidate, who is, I believe, Arabic. For some reason, I'm thinking Syrian, but I don't know if that is indeed the case. I don't know why I have that in my head. And a doctor, and has been definitely a part more of the Democratic Socialist movement. But he won the nomination, seems to be doing well right now. The Republicans are polling at +1 to 3 in Michigan at the moment. If the right now it's a Democratic held seat, so if the Republicans win it, that would be a flip back, and that would take 1 seat away from. But so that one is in play. In Ohio, this is a Democratic hold that would remain in the Democrat hands. Democrats have a polling margin of 1 to 2. It features Senator Sherrod Brown, who has a very high public profile. 5, Alaska. This is Republican held, and this one's a toss-up. It says Republicans +1, so this one could flip and is getting closer to flipping than it was as the weeks go by. In Iowa, this one's Republican held, but the Democrats have a +1 lead there in a toss-up. So this is one, again, that could very much flip. And again, Iowa, if I remember correctly, had some votes recently for their Supreme Court, and it went to Democrat as well there too, if I'm not mistaken. And then finally, well, not finally, sorry, 7, Texas. This one is Republican. This one would be a flip. Right now, the Democrats have a 0.5 to 1.5 lead. That's the one where James Tallarico is running, if you've heard that, against Ken Paxton, who's extremely scandal-plagued. No wonder Trump loved him. New Hampshire, Democrats, it's Democrat held, and Democrats are leading 2 to 4 there. So that one looks like it will be a hold. In Georgia, which is John Ossoff, Democratic held, and there the polling margin showing Democrats leading 1 to 2. So at present on this list, the Democrats are shown as flipping one of these, are shown as flipping at least 3 of these, and Michigan flipping 1. So for Democrats, a net 2. But Democrats need net +4. And as Trump is becoming more and more unpopular, and was really hoping to have a win with Canada that he can point to, and is not getting it now. And we've let this go till September 8th until ours respond. And now he is threatening, as we mentioned yesterday on the show, an extra 50% tariffs on things, automobile or things of the like. Not exactly quite sure anymore. I don't really care, to be totally honest, when it comes to him anymore. but that's not going to come into effect until sometime January 2027, if it ever does. A good thrashing at the midterms might, change that. Of course, Donald Trump, won't go through Congress through everything after if he becomes a super lame duck à l'orange. He's just going to try to do everything through executive order and try to make our lives miserable that way. But yeah, there are some reasons for us to be strategic in what it is that we're doing. We already have the favor of the American people overall. If you ask Americans how they feel about Canada, overall positive view by a lot, like 69% or something like that. If you ask how they feel about Trump, negative view by a lot. So there's nothing really in this other than pumping the base, pretty much like Pierre is doing here, in this for the Americans, at least in terms of public opinion polling, attacking Canada. It seems most Americans don't understand why it is that they are doing it and what purpose it serves, right? It's just like, why are we at war with Canada? Like, people just don't get it. Now, of course, because Americans don't know that much about Canada, it's very easy for J.D. Vance to stand on the stage and say that we got like 10% unemployment or something like that, and have everybody go, "Oh my God, they're a basket case." And, they won't have the details. Basically, our American leadership could tell them pretty much anything, and they're going to like drink it like bath water, right? So, it's what we're up against here. These moves here are meant, and the decisions to put political pressure, hopefully, on those states where we'd be able to flip a couple of things. Going back to the Q&A, and let's see what we've got next here.
Yesterday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford called the president a loser. He called him the king of bankruptcies and used some other colorful language to describe the president. I'm wondering if you think that hurt the relationship, and if anyone in the federal government asked him to tone it down.
Listen, we have seen this for a long time. Minister Joly and I have been both Foreign Minister of Canada. We have been engaging with the U.S. administration for a long, long time. And one thing I've learned is not to comment on every remarks that is being made on either side of the border. My job, our job here this morning, is to fight for Canada, is to fight for our workers, is to fight for industries, is to bring the support to make sure that we give them a bridge when we have more stability in our economy, and certainly in specific sectors that are affected by the U.S. tariff. That's what Canadians are expecting from us. They're expecting each and every one of us and the Prime Minister to stand up for Canada. That's what we did in our trade negotiation, to pivot, to make sure that we support the workers behind, the families, the communities across our nation. And at the same time, and I think that's been mentioned by my colleague, Plan A has always been to build Canada, to remove interprovincial trade barrier, to make sure that we diversify. I'm going to be hosting the Finance Minister of India just tomorrow, 5th largest economy in the world, 1.4 billion people that want to trade with Canada, and at the same time to make sure that we do big things in this country. This country is a nation that does big things. Just think about Churchill Falls we did recently. That's another James Bay. You know, a whole generation of people have dreamed about that. 20,000 jobs. You're talking about 70 billion of investment. Look at what the Prime Minister announced yesterday with my colleagues, Minister Joly and others, about shipbuilding. We're investing in Canada, we're investing in Canadians, we are building our country strong. That's the response that Canada needs to have. Sir,
Hi.
There's a bit of passion in that. I could see that in your eyes.
Just mentioning here, I'm seeing here in the chat asking why Evan Solomon is there, because he's the Minister of AI. Yes, he is. But he is also the Minister of the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. So that's why he was there making the announcement of the funding that would be distributed under the collective of the 7 regional development agencies. So that's the main reason there. I just figured I'd put it in there since I saw it in the chat. Okay, let's get back to Mr. Champagne.
Mac McSweeney with City News. The Prime Minister briefed opposition leaders today on the state of talks and these measures here, but Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is out again demanding that the government release the draft text of the deal that was on the table that you walked away from, saying Canadians have a right to see what you walked away from. Also demanding a recall of Parliament as soon as possible so that this can be debated. And he's calling for more tax relief. He's got a list of different tax measures he wants you to take action on. So can you respond? Will you release the draft text? Why or why not? Will you recall Parliament? Why or why not? And could there be more tax relief on the way?
That's a very smart way. You have three questions in one. I'm just looking at your colleagues. They're learning. The first thing, listen, this is probably the most publicly advertised, negotiation of a trade agreement I could recall. You've seen a number of media briefings. Minister LeBlanc has been out there with Janice Charette, our trade negotiator, briefing journalists, briefing Canadians at every step of the way, the Prime Minister as well. I can remember one trade negotiation which got more coverage than the one we're going through now. So in terms of transparency, I think Canadians have been able to follow that even on a daily basis. When it comes to recalling Parliament, listen, our job is to do the important work that Canadians elected us to do, is to put the measures in place, make sure we consult. We're consulting broadly with Canadians. I had the finance minister's meeting yesterday. The Prime Minister talked to the Premier, Minister Joly, Minister Solomon, Mr. Hajdu. We're crisscrossing the country, engaging. You saw the union leaders in front of us. We are talking to every Canadian, every stakeholders, because this is our moment. This is a moment to stand up, and we're willing to listen to whomever may have ideas in the opposition to say, how can we perfect what we're putting forward. This is a Team Canada moment. And the last thing in terms of tax measure, listen, we already have probably the most competitive set of measures in the G7, but we're always looking at ways to support workers, to support businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses, as we're looking at this particular period. I was talking to the Confederation of Small Businesses. We've been talking to Chamber of Commerce across the country as we're doing pre-budget consultation, and I can assure you that the voice of businesses, the voice of workers, the voice of small businesses in particular is well heard, and I can assure you that Canada will remain the most competitive country in the G7 for making investment. Okay. Madame Joly? Oh, Patty.
Yeah, Patty. Well, thanks for the question. And if the Conservative Party and the leader of the Conservative Party want to be helpful, they could stop voting against things like the Spring Economic Update that had $6 billion of investment for skilled trades training in this country. There are pockets of this country that really need skilled trades workers. I'm looking at these unions who come to me on a regular basis saying, we'd love to have more members. We'd love to be able to have the capacity to get more members through their Red Seal. And so we listened, and $6 billion in the Spring Economic Update is dedicated to attracting people to the trades, making sure they finish their Red Seal, and helping employers hire those apprentices to actually ensure we have the talent and the labor we need to build major projects, to build community infrastructure, to ensure that there's machinists and all kinds of folks in the manufacturing sector that are ready and able to do the work that many companies are still looking for the talent to do. And so what I would just say is there's work to be done, and we would hope that there's less obstruction in the way that we're actually really pulling together with employers, with unions, and indeed with tradespeople and workers of all kinds to make sure that we have the talent we need for the challenge at hand.
Well said.
Okay, so here's somebody in the back going, well said. That seems to have been particularly well received here. The reason I am stopping this at the moment is not because I have necessarily tons of things to add to what has been said, but because with the very long answer by François-Philippe Champagne, I'm actually not sure what the question asked actually was. So I don't know if it was answered. I have to see here what it was that was asked here to make sure that we got an answer at the moment. So, see, Ontario Premier Doug Ford called, oh yes, the president a loser, calls him the king of bankruptcies. Is this helpful? There really wasn't much in there. François-Philippe Champagne essentially just, sort of pivoted away from it, as best he could, and did it relatively skillfully. I have to say, if I am being honest. Um, I think the general consensus is that what Doug Ford is doing here is not necessarily particularly helpful here. Uh, you know, um, we've gotten into war words here, and we're basically watching two grown men who uh, being big babies. Being big babies. Doug Ford made his comments. And then we got one from Donald Trump. Lots of bluster from Doug Ford. Well, write about what you know there, Donald. Takes one to recognize one. Who is the premier of the Canadian province of Ontario, but who is better known as the less charismatic, intelligent, and overall unimpressive brother of the late great Rob Ford. No lies detected. America has been well, except for the late great. Late, maybe. Great. American has been carrying Canada for a decade, but no longer. Lie. The USA will always be far bigger, richer, and stronger than Canada. Always is a very long time, sir. And the way that you're running things, that's not guaranteed anymore, actually. Without the United States, Canada couldn't survive. We'd be fine. Thank you. It's where they get all of their money, and because of their current bad leadership, primarily Governor Carney and his flunky, Ford, they will not be allowed to keep taking advantage of the United States. Nobody takes advantage of the United States. Taking advantage of other people's United States things, time-honored tradition since at the end of the Second World War. Come on, man. We do not get all our money from the United States. And if the United States didn't exist, trust that we are resourceful and creative enough, well, we can survive Canadian winters. We have been doing it for quite a long time. We would muddle through somehow. Donnie. They're key to survival. Remember, much of the electricity, oil, and gas that Canada gets is transported through the U.S. Remember that much of the electricity, oil, and gas that Canada gets is transported through the United States. Remember that a lot of the gas that we buy back that's transported to the United States is oil that we send down to you. Dumbass. Oh my God. Electricity, oil, and gas, yeah, and on all the things that you make that get transported through, they get sold here, get transported through here. That means nothing. Someone should get these clowns to fall in line, or the consequences for Canada will be far worse. In all caps with an exclamation mark, just like he wrote "deal." Someone should get these clowns to fall in line. Oh, dear Muffin Top. We ain't falling in line for you, and you got nobody that could get us to do that. You just sent your best team to try to get us to do that, and we walked away from the table and told you to sit on our maple and spin. We told you to go F a butter tart. Poor butter tart. What did they do to deserve it? Canada's unemployment rate is now at 10%. No, it's not, Donnie. And by the way, even though your unemployment rate is lower than ours, we have better labor participation rate. And if you keep on doing what you're going to be doing, our unemployment rate will be better than yours because we're creating jobs faster than you are. Canada's unemployment rate is now 10%, rapidly rising. No, it's about 6 something and actually decreasing. So wrong and wrong. Their businesses are fleeing the United States, and it's all because of their failed policies and inept leadership. Well, if we have inept leadership, about 76% of us kind of like our inept leadership, particularly when it comes to what we're doing to you. I guess inept is in the eye of the beholder. I guess you would consider Mark Carney inept because he's not doing what you want, but his job is to do what we want. So in fact, he's rather apt. But thanks for your opinion. The days of ripping off our farmers and other businesses are over. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Jagoff Trump. Doug Ford got under his skin. Doug Ford got under his skin. Tina Yazdani at one point, 9:07 a.m. This morning. For the past 24 hours, Trump threatens 50% tariffs on Canadian cars, trucks, and auto parts steel starting January 1st, 2027. Ooh, be afraid. Be very afraid. Carney says a deal with the U.S. is still possible, but only if Washington comes to the table with, quote, the right attitude and respects Canadian sovereignty. Carney says Canada will begin talks with the EU this fall on a much stronger and deeper economic and security partnership. And by the way, I saw somebody say something in the tweet, something like that Canada and Europe should be really working together. Europe already has their plans, right? When the United States did what they did in Greenland, they had prepared their trade bazooka. It wouldn't take much at all. Probably one phone call, really, for Canada and the United States to start cooperating together in the EU. Pretty much, Canada. Did I say Canada and the United States or Canada and the EU to start working together? And the EU is pretty fed up with the United States already. They're really fed up with the United States already, so that wouldn't be too hard to do. And then on the Americas continent, because Brazil doesn't really much like it, and it seems that the Americans are going to be going after Brazil next. Brazil, people don't think about it a lot, but it's a pretty big country on this continent with a lot of people and a pretty big-sized economy. America thinks that the United States thinks that it's everything, but if you put Canada, Mexico, and Brazil together, you start to get a pretty interesting block, even on the hemisphere. We probably won't get Argentina, given that Milei is a good friend of Donald Trump, and probably give him a hand again with those beef exports thing. But and I'm pretty sure Cuba wouldn't want to be too anxious to be a good friend of the United States. Right. The United States doesn't have it like that. They think they do, but they don't. Trump says Canada should, quote, fall in line or face consequences far worse than existing tariffs. Ford tells Trump he can kiss my ass. Ford says Canada needs, quote, to throw everything and the kitchen sink at Trump, including potentially restricting exports of Ontario's electricity and critical minerals. Ontario expands its $1 billion financing program to help tariff-hit businesses keep workers on the job. Many provinces have been announcing initiatives on their own over the past day or two as well. Trump calls Ford and Carney clowns and calls Ford a flunky. Ford calls Trump a bully, dictator, and loser and tells Americans don't, quote, vote in a person who's going to kill your jobs. Ford says he has a lot of real estate on his ass for Trump to work with. And then this morning, Trump says the United States is seriously considering renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America. Because that's how serious we are. We've degenerated. And Donald Trump, because he can't let a pitch go by without swinging. Donald Trump basically had two tweets, considering that Mark Carney walked away from him, were rather subdued. And the first one wasn't all that big deal, right? The second one was the announcement of the extra 50% tariffs. And then that third one was the one with attacking Doug Ford because Doug Ford called Trump a loser. And then this morning, because Trump's fifis are still smarting because Doug Ford smashed them all over with a baseball bat. The United States is giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, in that we don't expect to be doing much business with Ontario any longer. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump. Okay, fine. Go ahead. I mean, what is this supposed to be? Is this supposed to be a threat that makes us shake on our boots? Start calling it Lake Ontario now because we're not going to do any more business with Ontario. I mean, you can call it Lake Fuckwater if you want. I don't care. It's just nobody cares, Donald. And I mean, and if he's a 50% tariff on all our cars on January 1st, 2027, and changing Lake Ontario to Lake America is what he's got. I say we call this bluff. Right? Like it said, well, okay, fine. We're just going to rename Lake Michigan Lake Obama. Have fun. Oh my God. We've won. You know that, right? Like we've already won this trade war. If Donald Trump is doing that on like 2 days later, we've won this trade war. This is literally the equivalent. I'm going to send in the military to deal with the bond market. Canada's being very nasty. We want it to fall in line, and it doesn't want to. My God, they're so inept at falling in line. Well, here, it's no longer Lake Ontario. I'm going to call it Lake America now. Knock yourself out, buddy. Don't let us stop you. Go ahead. Oh my God. Seeing here, there's a clip. We'll probably see it later. Mélanie Joly basically saying, well, yeah, we're still going to be calling it Lake Ontario. So. All right, let's go back to the press thingy, and Mélanie Joly is about to take to the mic here.
Well said. And not did they only vote against reskilling workers, they also voted against any form of support for businesses that we've been putting forward to help the auto, steel, aluminum, and forestry workers that are affected by the tariffs. So just basically walk the talk. That's what I would say to Mr. Patty. Just to go back on the question on Doug Ford. Of course, we all know that Premier Ford is a very colorful person. I have a really good relationship with him. I must say that the auto sector is a key consideration for this government. Of course, and the steel sector, both are very much present in Ontario. I've been in contact with the president of Ford Canada, the president of Honda Canada, and the president of Toyota Canada, following the threats of 50% of tariffs against auto. And so, of course, we'll fight back. And of course, a lot of emotions are high, but while this is all happening, we'll be smart, and we'll be strategic, and we'll fight for every of these jobs. Thank you.
Merci.
And then as a follow-up, sounds like a no to releasing the text. I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I want to ask about Keystone XL pipeline. You were not at the table for the negotiations, but you guys have been briefed on the negotiations. Can you confirm whether or not Keystone XL was a part of the deal? Was it used by Canada as a bargaining chip? And then also, what was the proposal on the table? Because was it anything beyond the Prairie Connector and the Bridger pipelines that we've already seen moving on both sides of the border?
Yeah, now that's 4 questions in 2, but listen, what I can say, and I will defer to Minister LeBlanc, our chief trade negotiator, to tell you specifically what was said on the table. But suffice to say that what we're doing is going back to Plan A. Plan A has always been to build our natural resources. Plan A has always been to build our critical minerals. Plan A has always been to increase our infrastructure. Plan A has always been to diversify our trade. And I just would like to remind you the words of Fatih Birol, the executive director of the International Energy Agency, who just recently said in Montreal, I think Minister Joly and I were there, that the world energy architecture is being redesigned, and that Canada will be at the center of that new energy architecture. So it's not surprising that you see Canada talking about additional investment to bring our resources to market. The good thing is that we're diversifying. You've seen that a number of the LNG projects on the West Coast, we already have off-takers in Asia. And more recently, we've seen our German friends, which have said, listen, the most sought-after commodity today is trust. And Canada offered the trust that the world needs: stability, predictability, and trust. And when you're looking, and I'll just finish there, but at the G7 finance minister, and you know, we have a G20 finance minister and central bank governors coming over this weekend. I can tell you that today you see the nexus between energy security, food security, economic security, and national security. So it is very timely for Canada to make these big investments and make sure we can bring our resources to market. Sir?
Mike Liquiteur with CTV News for Mr. Champagne. The Prime Minister and Minister of Law did say that the U.S. wanted to limit Canada's sovereign ability to enter into free trade agreements with reliable countries. Which ones, and how are they going to do that?
Well, we have always resisted anyone who wants to infringe on the sovereignty of Canada to make sure that we do the deals that are in Canada's best interest. And I would tell you, this is the whole essence of Maître chez nous, as we say in French. Standing up for our economic sovereignty is a fundamental principle. When people try to impose or somehow have language that could, in a way, restrict the ability of Canada to choose who they're going to be partnering with, what are they going to be selling, and what, you know, under which conditions that will be made, I think it is right, it is fundamental for Canada to stand up and to say, no thanks, we're not going to do that. We have never done that. We have trade agreements with a number of nations, and we're just getting started. We're the only G7 nation with a free trade agreement with all the other G7 nations, giving us access, preferential market access to 1.5 billion. My colleagues were there when we did the one with Europe. We did the one, the TPP with our friend in Asia Pacific. We're engaging with Indonesia. So I think Canadians understand that maintaining our economic sovereignty is non-negotiable. That's what we did, and that's what we'll do.
Yeah. What do you make of President Trump's comments that the Prime Minister was fabricating the issue around the protection of the French language, and how he says that he loves French-Canadian people? Et si vous pouvez répondre en français aussi.
You can answer in French if you'd like.
We all love French-Canadian people.
OK, ça c'était parfait. Mouah. That's perfect. No notes. No notes.
I'm in love with one too, you know. The question is not about love. The question is about sovereignty and what we stand for in this country. We're a country that believes in having 2 official languages. And that's part of why we decided decades ago, years ago, more than 150 years ago, to make this important alliance between English and French people. And, you know, we eventually also have a lot of reconciliation work to do. But that was at the core of the creation of our country. And you know why French and English Canadians decided to eventually create that country of Canada? Because we didn't want to be part of the US. And so that's part of our DNA. Now, forward 150 years later, we need to make sure that we continue to protect that strong alliance. And that is why making sure that we are sovereign, that we're able to take our own decisions when it comes to protection of our bilingualism is key. And I think, of course, French Canadians agree with that, but I really think also English Canadians do so. And as a Minister of Industry, I would like to highlight that it's not only a question of French language, it's more than that. It's a question of protecting the workers in the cultural sector. And that is up to 900,000 people working in our creative industries. By the way, you journalists are all part of that industry. But also, you know, the vast array of, from film production to museums, etc. We need to be able, as a country, to have cultural policies to protect these workers. And that's what our colleague Mark Miller is working on, but also that's why the Prime Minister had to stand up for it. Mais premièrement, juste pour répondre à la question en français,
To answer the
on aime
question,
les Canadiens
Okay,
français, on aime
so,
les
so
of course we
basically
Québécois.
like
asked for the question to be answered in French. There was a lot to love about what Mélanie Joly just did in that answer here. First of all, making it clear, listen, Donald Trump can tell us he loves us all he wants. It's not about love, it's about sovereignty. He can tell us he loves us all he wants. No, this is not her. She didn't say this part. This is my part that I'm adding. He can say he loves us all he wants. It's not about love, it's business. Love is personal. Wasn't it Donald Trump who had on the tagline on his show, The Apprentice, at the end? It's not personal, it's just business. It's not personal, Donnie. Yes, it is true we don't like you. We never have. But it's not personal. It's just business. You proposed a hostile corporate takeover of Canada. We rejected you. You tried to climb on top of us. We pushed you off, like E. Jean Carroll did. And probably many other people on a certain island. Allegedly. But you keep on trying to put your creepy tiny little hands all over us and climb on top of us, and we just keep on kicking you in the forehead and say, no, stay down. It's kind of interesting, eh? Both of us are hitting each other, telling each other to stay down. You're trying to punch us economically. You're telling us to stay down. We're saying, no, fuck nobody. That's not going to work for us. And when we kick you in the nuts or kick you in the forehead and no, get your hands off us, you stay down. And you refuse to stay down too. So I guess at one point it's going to be about who can last the longest. And well, first of all, Donald Trump, we're a little surprised that you're interested in us. I mean, we are 159 years old. We thought we'd be a little old for you, not your type. Yeah, I said it. But yeah, we're younger and we're fitter and we have a longer life expectancy. We're probably going to outlast you. Just say, right? So Mélanie Joly making that case here. It's not about love; it's sovereignty, right? And of course, who doesn't love a French Canadian? We're, if I do say so myself, we are fabulous. But again, all countries in the world have some protection of their culture. All countries in the world somehow subsidize their agricultural industry in some way, right? So it's not about love; it's about sovereignty. A country has to be able to protect its culture, right? That's what Mélanie Joly said. It's pretty clear here that on this one that either Trump was completely out of the loop that it had happened, which is quite possible because he's out of the loop a lot, or like I said, or like I said, or they're just outright lying, right? Because you got to Jameson Greer saying, it wasn't about all those things. It was, it was about Netflix. Yeah, okay. But if it's about Netflix and discoverability, and it's like, okay, yeah, sure, we're making shows in French, but we don't want to finance them. And when you're searching for your shows, we're not going to put them up there so that you can see them. Right? You're going to have to go through 5 or 6 layers to be able to find them. Well, if you don't know how to do that, then they're just as good as not there. Now, are they? right? And the Americans just cannot seem to understand whether it's discoverability on Netflix or whether it's packaging and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, it's just extra cost for us because we have to do it in French for what? Like, you only got like 6 million people or 7 million people. Just do it, and most of them understand English anyway. So just put it in English, man. Why? Well, if you're a unilingual country, that doesn't even particularly master your official language particularly well. Not even sure if English is the official language of the United States, whether or not they have one. Um, Never bothered to look it up. But over here, we are not you, right? Mélanie Joly, the second part of that answer, that was absolutely fantastic when Donald Trump turns around and says, like, we're going to stop treating you like a state. We never wanted to be a state, never, ever, ever in our history, right? Yesterday was what anniversary it was of the War of 1812? August 24th. When the British forces burned down the White House. Right? August 24th, 1814. Why did we do that? Because we didn't want to be Americans. We didn't want to be a state, even back then. Right? It's the complete misunderstanding and reinterpretation. We're going to stop treating you like a state. You never did. And we never wanted it. So if you're going to stop doing something we never wanted you to do in the first place, well, thank you for doing us a fucking favor. I mean, I'm not... Right? These people. So brilliant answer from Mélanie Joly on all fronts. One of the reasons why there's a lot of people in the chat that thinks that she might be, or could very well be, or that she is Prime Minister material. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if that was indeed the case eventually. All right, let's get back here.
Good morning, Ashley Brooks, CBC News. Minister Joly, this morning, President Trump said that since he doesn't expect to do much business with Ontario anymore, that he is seriously considering renaming Lake Ontario the Lake America.
There it is.
Where do you think his head is at, and is there anything you can do to stop that?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part, sorry.
Is there the question part?
Just before. You said
President Trump said he's seriously considering renaming Lake Ontario Lake America.
Okay, sorry.
Is there anything you can do to stop that, and where do you think his head is at?
We'll always call it Lake Ontario. Period. We're proud of our Great Lakes. We've navigated the, St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes for thousands of years. And it was part of a foundation of our country. And we'll just stand up for what we have. And meanwhile, I really think that while all these shenanigans are happening, we'll just be smart. And we'll be strategic, and we'll fight back.
Again, perfect answer. Right? And it's kind of a silly question. Okay, is there anything we can do to stop that? It's like, of course there's nothing we can do to stop that. It's Donald Trump. There's nothing that's been able to stop him so far. And it's none of our business. Why would we waste any of our damn precious time stopping him from making stupid statements and shoving his foot down his own throat? It's just, there's no point. It's like, yeah, we'll just be calling it Lake Ontario. It's like, we know what it means. Most likely, let's be honest, President, person, woman, cameraman, TV probably wants to call it Lake America, just like wants to call everything Gulf of America and something of America, because it's about the only word that he can remember anymore. The once Great Lakes. Not so good anymore. No, Lake Ontario. It's Lake America now. We had to make it great again. What a dumbass. Oh my God. And you had Kit Hugh today. Well, really nailed it. Really, really nailed it. Laughing. Pudding Head thinks he can rename Nigani Gichigami. Donald Trump. It was Lake Nagani Gichigami. And then was renamed Lake Ontario. And there are still people in Ontario who remembered that it was Lake Nagani Michigami originally. You can rename things all you want. People will remember what they were called. So yeah, while he's out there doing shenanigans, we'll just remain strategic and focused on the goal ahead. Way to go, Mélanie Joly. Way to go. That's the way we like it. All right, Minister Champagne, coming here.
Yeah.
What do your calculations tell you the economic impact of these counter tariffs you're moving ahead with will be on Canadian consumers and Canadian companies?
Well, first of all, this is not about generating revenues. This is about protecting our workers, protecting our industry, making sure that we have a level playing field, because when the United States decided to impose these tariffs, what we're doing today is making sure that the industry that have been impacted can compete in the Canadian market. And this is the essence of all my colleagues saying, the Buy Canadian policy makes more sense than ever. And I said that to the finance ministers of the province and the territories yesterday to make sure that we double down in a sense. We want to make sure that businesses like the one we were this morning would have an alternative. And the products that we have selected in the countermeasures are, the vast majority of them would have a substitution possible in the Canadian products. And that's a way to make sure that we would support small and medium-sized businesses across the country. So to answer your question, like I said, we will publish our estimate when we come to the budget 2026. But for the time being, I would say with the measures we're putting forward, this is really about supporting Canada, supporting worker communities and businesses. That's what is driving the $7.5 billion. This is all about mettre chez nous, as we say in French, making sure that we support the people for as long as it takes with what it takes so that we can cross that bridge to days where we won't have to deal with these tariffs.
I'm really sorry, we will take one last question in French, please.
No, come on. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. My question's for Mélanie Joly. You just said we're also targeting products that will target states in the U.S. Can you outline what products are being targeted and what states are being targeted?
So François-Philippe has that list. It includes, appliances. It includes food products and beverages, etc. But we can highlight you exactly with the vast list. The list is, quite consistent.
But I'm just trying to figure out, because we heard from the Prime Minister and a few folks up here have said that the goal of these counter tariffs are to defend Canadian industry. You're the only one that said that there's some attack in this. So is the point of these tariffs to try and attack and make Americans feel the pain in Republican states? Because that was the tactic that the Trudeau government took when they brought in the original counter tariffs.
We've been always clear. The first one was to protect our workers, to protect our markets. For example, big part of the counter tariffs are about making sure that the steel tariffs that were at 25% are at 50% because, our steel is at 50%. So that's an example. But of course, we've always been clear that we need to put pressure. And that is actually the reason why there are counter tariffs. And, I think in the US, they're very much aware of that. And that's why they've been pushing to get rid of U.S. alcohol on shelves, because they know that it's having political pressure back home for them.
We'll extend a bit. Let's extend. In fairness, there was a number of interventions. I appreciate you've been patient. Canadians have been patient at home. It's a long press conference, but is that fair if we say it under 5 minutes or so, just to make sure we have, in all fairness to all of you been patiently waiting? I'm just trying to manage fairness here. You go, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Cameron Ryan with CPAC.
Okay, the thing that is bothering me about this is that they are extending, and they asked at one point, could we have a question to a Francophone journalist? And they are extending, but they are not having the Francophone journalists ask the question. Okay. Yeah, if I was that Francophone journalist that was told a little bit ago there, can we do one more in French? And I said, can we extend? And Mr. Gray from Global, and how this person's going ahead, I'd be going like, what the F? Or as we say in French, what the fuck? Literally, that is French. What the fuck? If you don't speak French, it means seal cotton. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens here.
In the list of tariffs released this morning, we see a lot of products used to build homes. I'm talking about treated wood, carpeting, fittings, doors, sinks, bathtubs, so many other products. Are you concerned that tariffing these products is going to make it more expensive to build homes in Canada when your government says that it's trying to make it easier to do so?
Well, as you've heard from the get-go, we have been very strategic in how we have selected the list of products. When you go down the list, and I appreciate it's fairly detailed. It's hundreds of pages of codes. But what you will see is that a large proportion of the countermeasures we're bringing forward are relating to steel and steel derivative and aluminum derivative. So that's a big chunk of them, which the industry actually has been advocating to all my colleagues. Minister Hajdu, she comes from a region that has been manufacturing for a long time. So we've heard the pressures around the country. And sadly, I said, we have been playing at that movie before. So we kind of know where we need to act to protect Canadian industry. So that's the vast majority. The other ones have been more sector specific. We have been listening to stakeholders across the nation, making sure that they are targeted, strategic, and very specific to the vast extent people can substitute for a Canadian product, because that's the whole point of that, is that at the end of the day, you want to have the level playing field for Canadian companies. Because if they're going to be, if our Canadian workers and industry are tariffed to go to the U.S., you have to make sure that imports from the U.S. would be tariffed at the same level, so that you have a level playing field. That is the philosophy. That's the first principle, so that you have a level playing field. So that's why we have been very targeted, strategic in drawing up that list.
Okay. And the excise tax on gasoline, it's been a tax holiday for the past several months. Cut it back in the spring. Do you plan to keep that gas tax when it expires in, I believe it's September 8th? The Conservatives are calling for you to keep it.
First of all, let me thank you for your question, because whilst we're talking about all that, this has, and I think Minister Joly highlighted that a bit with Minister Hajdu and Solomon and colleagues, this is creating a lot of concern around the country. I mean, the situation we're living through. It is quite unprecedented when you have a close trading partner which is trying to exploit the economic integration, as opposed to using that as a base to do a win-win trade agreement. And I can understand for folks watching at home, I want to reassure them that we are confident in the Canadian economy, and what we're doing today is going to support families and communities. To your question, clearly, the things that is top of mind for people watching at home is the cost of living. There's no doubt about that. They're seeing that. This is adding to some anxiety, because people are concerned about the end of the week and the end of the month, the price of grocery, the price of gas, the price of rent. What I want to say to Canadians is that we've been acting on all three fronts. With the Canada Grocery Benefit, to help people, making sure that they have the support they need when they go to the grocery store. On housing, we have done generational investments to support people with affordable housing. And when it came to gas, we suspended the excise fuel tax, the federal excise fuel tax. And so the Prime Minister and I are always listening. we understand cost of living is, if you look at the polls, you would say that Canadians, that's top of mind to everyone. And I can assure you that we're very much seeds of that issue. And we're always looking with my colleagues to support Canadians in times of need.
Are you going to do it or not, though? Or you're thinking about it? Have you ruled it out?
I think I've answered your question very extensively on that.
And I think that's your third question.
Thank you. Next
But
question.
thank you.
Thank you for taking my question today. The Prime Minister said in his speech on Saturday that in this year's...
Okay. I don't really have much to add, kits and cubs, to these answers here, because they're pretty much straightforward. The last few here, noticing some stuff here in the chat from you here, with regard to the French thing, and that's one thing that we have been noticing over here. It's like it really is a family thing, right? It's we pick on the French all the time as Canadians within the family. But let an American do it. And I've never seen Anglophones in Canada get their backs up so much for French language rights than I have over the past few days. Merci, mes amis. Thank you, friends. Good to know. But that's a perfect example, right? Of Anglophone Canadians, rather than siding with international Anglophones, siding with their fellow Canadians, even though they may be Francophone. Because first you side with Canada. First you side with your neighbors before the intruder. Kit Saucy here stating here is a measure of cultural sovereignty, time for strengthening the French and Indigenous languages across to education and making it more universal across the nation. It's time for strengthening the French and Indigenous languages' access to education and making it more universal across the nation. Yes, that would be a good way to assert some sovereignty. Kit Linda saying, language rights are enshrined in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and not even subject to the notwithstanding clause. No matter what it covered, it was a fundamental attack on our existence and an error. Was it an intentional poison pill to make it fall? Because the Americans didn't really want a deal at the end? Don't know about that. But you have Aaron Weary of CBC that has the impression that that maybe we pulled a rope-a-dope here, that we knew that the United States was going to do this all along because we read the art of the deal, and we let them. According to Aaron Weary, Mark Carney doesn't stop the United States from driving negotiations over a cliff. Over a cliff, not cliffed. After a week of manufactured drama and unnecessary strain, Prime Minister Mark Carney emerged on Saturday morning to explain why we are walking away from a bad deal and what comes next. Quote, for over a year, Canada has worked intensively and in good faith with the United States to negotiate a new comprehensive trade deal, Carney said. We've been pragmatic, patient, and persistent. Apparently, that was not sufficient. In a statement released 20 minutes to midnight on Friday night, Carney said the, quote, last-minute changes in the terms proposed by the American negotiators were, quote, unfair, uneconomic, and called into question the reliability of the deal. Minutes earlier, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer had announced to reporters on a conference call that Canada had declined to finalize an agreement. Yeah. I wonder why. That's diplomatic speak. Canada had declined to finalize an agreement. No, we didn't decline to finalize an agreement. There was no agreement. Mr. Greer, there was no agreement. When you were sent back to write the text on what it is that you had agreed, and you wrote it back as the Americans understood it, with all the details and the small little clauses, it was clear we did not have an agreement. There was nothing to finalize. We did not agree. Up until that moment, it had seemed, after days of speculation and leaks, that Carney's task in the days ahead would be convincing Canadians, many of whom are no doubt disinclined to accept anything short of unconditional surrender from the Americans, that the deal he accepted was worth taking. The acceptability of an unknown and uncompleted deal is hard to gauge, but Steve Vacheul, Canada's former chief negotiator, was reportedly concerned that Canada had given up too much, and Chrystia Freeland, the former Former Foreign Affairs Minister worried aloud that any implicit acceptance of U.S. tariffs would put Canada on the other side of the proverbial Rubicon. That might be true, but it is fair to ask whether there's any path forward that doesn't involve some crossing of that barrier. All of Donald Trump's other latest trade deals would suggest that some kind of tariff is table stakes. It's also necessary to note that the new tariffs Trump has now imposed will be far from painless. Trevor Toom, an economist at the University of Calgary, had estimated that as many as 90,000 Canadians could lose their jobs as a result. Janice Charette, Canada's current chief negotiator, had reportedly warned her American counterparts that the imposition of new tariffs could represent something of a cliff for these negotiations. That public and provincial reaction could make it harder, not easier, for her side to negotiate. That would now seem to leave Canadian and American officials dangling in midair like Wile E. Coyote. What happens next could be unpleasant. In an interview with the New York Times in July, a senior official in Trump's administration said American foreign policy might be summed up by the idea that, quote, people can no longer take the United States for granted. Quote, I think that's one thing that's really important as a structural level that this administration is doing differently in what is perhaps a tough way sometimes, but also a rational and common sense way, which is to accurately price the partnership and relationship with the United States, explained Elbridge Colby, a senior advisor to the Secretary of War. Quote, both in terms of access and things like AI or energy, but also in terms of leverage, things like burden sharing issues or tariffs, etc. The problem with this is that when he says that the United States is maybe doing this in a tough but also in a rational, common sense way, it is not. Tough, yes. Rational and common sense, no. I mean, the president is doing things that are going against every convention that exists on longevity and building a positive legacy. Now, of course, he doesn't need to be elected again because he's term limited, but there is nothing rational and common sense here. It might be fairly argued that Americans derived innumerable benefits from the world as it was, and that the United States was aided by the cooperation and assistance of numerous countries along the way. But the suggestion here is that the benefits of a friendly relationship with the US were not accurately priced, and so other countries were getting too good of a deal. Other countries might quibble, but they might agree that the US is no longer to be taken for granted, that it can no longer be taken for granted that the US will stand by its traditional allies, that it can no longer be taken for granted that the US will abide by its own trade agreements, that it can no longer be taken for granted that the American political system will produce presidents like those who governed between 1932 and 2016. In a recent appearance on the Hurley Burley podcast, conservative political strategist Corey Tenike offered his own analogy for what Canada is now experiencing. The era of long-term trade agreements is over, he said. The tumultuous uncertainty of the moment is not merely a passing cold. Quote, we're managing a chronic disease. We're managing a chronic disease. This is diabetes, Tenike said. We're going to be doing insulin checks and taking injections on a daily basis for as long as this administration's around, and probably for the next several. We're in a long-term cycle of trade protectionism, and might makes right bullying and reshuffling of the international order in a fundamental way. In an analysis of this week's negotiations, Patrick Leblond, a professor of business and public policy at the University of Ottawa, compared Canada and the United States to two drivers speeding their cars at each other in a game of chicken. The common denominator in all of these analogies might be that none of them sound like a fun time. Speaking to reporters on Saturday, Carney said he and his government have been, quote, under no illusions. Quote, we recognize from the start that America has changed, he said. The government recognized, he said, that the United States would, quote, transform all of its commercial relationships, use economic integration as a weapon, and that, quote, sometimes its signature was written in pencil. But Canadian officials nevertheless tried to, quote, strike a fair deal on which Canadian businesses and workers could rely. Quote, I believe that people on the ground on both sides of our border want this relationship to work, Carney said. But the, quote, cumulative effect of U.S. demands had, quote, revealed the limits of the American government's, quote, commitment to a true economic partnership. So what now? In the bigger picture, what kind of relationship with the U.S. is still possible? Carney said that Canadian negotiators had sought, quote, long-term partnerships, but there's a certain tension, not necessarily unresolvable, between that and the idea that the U.S. now sometimes signs its name in pencil. It would likely serve Canadians to hear more from their leaders about what to expect or hope for from the foreseeable future. Carney's appearance before reporters on Saturday was useful for illuminating exactly why he thought these particular negotiations had broken down and where his red lines were. Maybe some wouldn't have loved the kind of deal Carney could have signed this week, but in the absence of a deal, American tariffs against Canadian products took effect at 12:01 a.m. Saturday. The federal and provincial governments will now have to support impacted businesses, and new counter tariffs on American products will now be set to come into force after Labor Day. Will the Trump administration retaliate in response to Canadian retaliation? Well, it seems that they've already announced that they intend to. Would that compel another round of counter tariffs? What will it take to get the two sides back to the negotiating table? What might, in terms of a ceasefire, look like at this point? Carney has said in the past that, quote, no deal is better than a bad deal, a sentiment that Ontario Premier Doug Ford echoed on Saturday. That may generally be true, but it doesn't mean the no deal option is easy. It isn't. But dying on our knees, also not an option. Right? Let's go back and see if there is anything left in those final questions, hopefully, to this press conference. And we never did get to the question by the French reporter still yet.
More attractive to businesses and investors. Does this mean that there will be more tax reforms incoming? And is Canada still committed, with today's announcement, is Canada still committed to a fiscal anchor for its deficit in the coming years?
Oh yeah, we're committed. Listen, what I said to Canadians in the sense, the good thing is that because of the fiscal discipline that we have shown, the Prime Minister, my colleagues and I, with lower expenses and we have higher revenues, if you've seen, we entered this period in a position of strength. That's why I'm saying we're standing here in a position of strength, saying we have the wherewithal to support Canadians, workers, and businesses with whatever it takes for as long as it takes. So that's the first thing. We have the lowest net debt to GDP of any G7 nation. We have, despite all of what we discussed this morning, we are forecasted to have the second fastest growth in the G7, and we are the only country in the G7 with Germany with their AAA credit rating. If you look at the markets, you will see that they believe in Canada. We all believe in Canada. I know Canadians believe in Canada, and they know that we can meet the moment. You've seen comments also from a number of banks this morning that say Canada has what it takes to withstand that for sure. So that's the first thing. The second thing, on being the most competitive, definitely. I would say the marginal effective tax rate today in Canada is the lowest in the G7. We're always looking to make sure that businesses like the one we have here today would have the support they need. Our productivity super deduction is already paying dividend. You've seen we've created record level of employment. I would say that's why now what we're doing today, that's on the macro level with my colleagues, is that we're going to support people where they are, because we know that this is going to affect, small businesses in particular. That's why we're here today. This is a small business. That's why you've seen a significant investment in worker support with Minister Hajdu. This is one of the most comprehensive suite of measures that we can put to support our workers. And with Minister Joly and my other colleagues, we're going to make sure that businesses who need our support, we will provide the support they need to weather that. But I would say Canadians at home should feel confident. Canada is entering this period in a position of strength.
Follow-up. Thank you. And this is for Minister Joly. President Trump has threatened additional tariffs on auto sector. Just wondering if there are more targeted measures incoming for the auto sector in the coming months or weeks or months.
So we, of course, always take note of what President Trump says. We haven't seen anything coming out in terms of executive orders. And therefore, we will take action should there be executive orders. For now, the tariffs against auto are at 25%, which was the case even before the negotiations that ended up in basically failing last week. Notwithstanding that, the threat to the auto sector is real. And so that's why I've been engaged with key presidents of our major auto sector companies, Honda, Toyota, Ford, and we'll continue to engage. We have supported many of these plants over the past months, and so that has been helpful for them to continue to be able to weather the storm. But I'm not saying that the storm is not real. It is real, and that's why President, we take note of what he has said, but also I've been in contact with Premier Ford many times to make sure that we would be working together, along with Vic Fedeli, the Minister of the Economy of Ontario, to protect the auto sector.
Merci. Dernière question en français, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, Andréane Pablaza, Radio-Canada.
Radio-Canada.
Vous avez dit ne pas vouloir d'escalade. Vous imposez des
You said
tarifs
that you did not
seulement
want
sur des
escalation
secteurs
and that
déjà
you're imposing
visés par
tariffs
les États-Unis.
as a dollar-for-dollar response. Why don't you? Why are you on a defensive mode? I would say that we're in strategic mode. So the strategic response is to do exactly what we're doing, is to lean on our plan A. We are in a trade conflict that we did not choose, but we have demonstrated one thing: we're going to stand up for our workers, our industries, our businesses, and we're going to stand up French language and culture. And that's what it means to be masters in our own home. And at the same time, not only did we stand up for Canada at the negotiating table, but this morning we're presenting you a $7.5 billion support plan in order to face this situation. So I think that people who are watching at home, I think they're able to size all of this up. In a conflict such as this one, we have to be measured and strategic. We have to be serious in our response. And I think that what we're presenting is a responsible, serious, and strategic response in order to face the situation as it is today. As Mrs. Joly was saying, of course things can evolve. We've seen this. We're going through a very volatile and complex time. And what we're trying to do for our businesses is provide support, to say we're going to support you during this period. There are multiple things happening at once. And what we're announcing this morning, the $7.5 billion in support, is added to the 25 that has been in place for the past 18 months. So what we're doing with Minister Hajdu and Joly is that we are boosting some programs so that it be simple, flexible, and accessible to businesses. Could I add something? We have the front lines of this tariff war, and we are defending our positions. But we could say that we're playing cards. We know that we have a lot of good cards, and we're not going to use them when we are dealt our first hand. We have to be very smart in what we're doing. Have you assessed the impacts of your tariffs on the Canadian economy? Well, we're at the very beginning of this new tariff era with these tariff increases, and that is why today we are responding. Economists will do their analysis, but what we're presenting is a roadmap that will allow us, in the majority of cases, and this is why we put the emphasis on Buy Canadian, to substitute import products for Canadian products. So it's a little bit premature to see what the economic impact will be. There will be a substitution factor there. People who used to import U.S. products will choose Canadian businesses. And when you find a substitute, well, in addition to the programs that we're putting in place, and you've seen the comments coming from the banks, they've said that Canada is well positioned. And so we are in a position of strength because we have been prudent fiscal managers. We are in a very solid position within the G7, and so we're standing up for our workers, our industries, and Canada. And that's what Canadians expect. Thank you.
All right, Kits and Cubs.
We have been listening in to federal ministers as they...
All right, Kits and Cubs, there you go. That was the whole press conference. Sorry, I didn't really have much to add for the last few comments and commentary. It just seemed to be like rehashes or whatnot, that the question and answer period really could have easily been 10 to 15 minutes shorter based on the fact that the questions weren't particularly all that interesting, I have to say. But there you go. That's the suite of measures that we have at the moment. So one of the places here at Kits and Cubs, if you are part of the business industry, if you are an employer or know an employer, small business, all that kind of stuff, this is the page on the Government of Canada site here that has the list or the overall thing of the program itself. So you can share that with their people here. Yeah, Kit TCR. You can tell how many of the journalists work for U.S.-owned Canadian media by their questions. Yeah, indeed. I'm seeing here, I've seen a lot of things going on stating that for some reason it seems that my lips are not moving in sync with the image. If that is the case, I have no idea why that is happening, kits and cubs. Can't tell you why that is. I assume it's a YouTube issue in terms of streaming that stuff. It seems that it's not doing it when it comes to what's happening on the video, but with me specifically. But yes, I am aware. I have seen your things. I just assume it's the streaming software, like Elaine says here, glitching, because there's nothing that I or Mr. Grizzly could do at our end to fix that. Once it leaves here, nothing that happens at the other end is necessarily under our control. I'm sorry that the viewing experience was a little odd as a result of that. There we go. We have all of that. As I mentioned here, and I mentioned yesterday that there were two big announcements yesterday that the federal government was trying to move forward a bit, have the all of the stuff sandwiched between two things, really, right? We had the announcement on Friday, Port of Church, not Port of Churchill, Churchill Fall, Churchill River, sorry, Gulf Island, the hydroelectric project, which is the biggest green project in Canadian history and one of the biggest projects ever in terms of investment. And then we had the stuff with Trump. And then yesterday, two big announcements. One, that we were going to be spending a certain number of billions of dollars. I believe it was 11 billion to build 6 icebreakers at the Davie shipyard in Lévis, near Quebec City. This was from the Canadian press. It is the largest shipbuilding contract in the province's history. The new ships will replace the Coast Guard's aging heavy and medium icebreakers, fulfilling a promise made in 2019. So this is a promise, a project that was already announced in 2019 under Trudeau, that's taking the next step. It seems that everything is ready and whatnot, and we're ready to put the $11 billion to actually make the purchase. It says here, we will move fast. The first steel will be cut next fall. The first ship will be delivered 5 years later, and the full fleet will be in service 5 years after that. So we'll be cutting steel next fall. I'm going to guess by next fall, he means fall of 2027, not this coming fall of 2026. I always get mixed up when people say next fall, because I don't know if it's the one that's coming or the one in the following year or the following month or following week, depending on the time period. Quote, they will work in Atlantic Canada, the St. Lawrence throughout the depth of the winter, and our Arctic throughout the summer. Carney made the announcement alongside Quebec Premier Christine Fréchette, who had commented, like Danielle Smith a while ago, that she and the Prime Minister have been seeing a lot of each other lately at the Chantier Davie shipyard in Lévis, Quebec, where all 6 ships will be constructed. Of course, as we're getting close to August 27th, the date of the provincial election, this had to be announced before so that everything could remain within election rules. Fréchette, who is about to head in a provincial election campaign, called it a great day for Lévis. She said the contract will protect the province's economic sovereignty and create good careers such as welders and technicians. Carney said the contract will support 5,000 jobs during their construction. The vessels fall under the federal government's Buy Canadian procurement policy and will be built with Canadian steel, Carney's office said. And of course, since we have made changes so that our Coast Guard is now considered part of our military, these expenses will go towards our 5% NATO spending commitment as well. The announcement comes just days after trade talks with the United States collapsed and as President Donald Trump issues new tariff threats against Canada. In 2024, Ottawa announced an initial $19.6 million contract to Davie under the National Shipbuilding Strategy to design the 6 new Polar Class 3 icebreakers. The Coast Guard is going through a large fleet renewal, with the National Shipbuilding Strategy expected to oversee the delivery of 88 new vessels in total by 2045. And this is very, very important because some of the things that Mark Carney is doing, right, and you see Pierre Poilievre complaining, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. Nothing's happening right now. You don't have a shovel in the ground now. Well, there was a time when we decided under Harper that we were going to start rebuilding ships in Canada again, that we had to build the whole infrastructure to be able to build ships first before we started building them. And that somebody and if at the time we had believed, well, it's going to take so long before we get to build a ship that, why even bother stopping? It's just a waste of money. We wouldn't be in a position now to have something that has that's going to be building 88 ships. between now and 2045. You got to start somewhere. And one of the easiest things to do politically is to poo-poo on a new idea because it won't deliver within the next 4 years or before the next election cycle. That it might be a generational thing. You got to do the generational things, or else announcements like this are not possible. Now, the other announcement that was made yesterday involved the Energy Minister, Tim Hodgson. And he was in London, Ontario. And it says here, this is from the Natural Resources Canada Department. The Government of Canada is building towards net zero emissions by 2050, and affordable clean fuel production is key to that goal. By supporting clean energy, the Government of Canada is fighting climate change, strengthening our energy security, and building a stronger, more competitive economy for all Canadians. Today, the Honourable Tim Hodgson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, announced a federal investment of nearly $19 million for Stormfisher Environmental Limited, a subsidiary of Generate Upcycle, to expand its facility in London, Ontario. This facility, the London Digester, is the largest food waste and anaerobic digestion facility in Canada that produces renewable natural gas from municipal source separated organics and industrial, commercial, institutional food and beverage waste. Well, how interesting is that? The investment announced today will allow the facility to expand its let's try that again. The investment announced today will allow the facility to expand its RNG production capacity, increasing its ability to transform organic waste into low carbon fuel and fertilizer, which will be used on farms in southwestern Ontario. By turning waste into clean, renewable energy, RNG helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions, diverts waste from landfills, and helps Canada get the most from our resources. Once complete in 2027, the upgraded facility will have the capacity to produce an additional 450,000 gigajoules of RNG, renewable natural gas, enough to power approximately 4,500 homes annually and 86,000 additional tons of nutrient-rich organic fertilizer each year. Investments like these underscore the Government of Canada's efforts to grow our economy, strengthen domestic energy security, support good Canadian jobs, and build climate competitiveness, all to position our nation as a clean energy superpower for years to come. I didn't even know that was possible. That you could do that. We need more projects like this. This is great. If we could make fuel from organic waste in this way, and we already have the technology to have it such that it could power approximately 4,500 homes annually. What are we waiting for to do more? What are we waiting for to do more? Wow. If we're talking about doing the little thing, there's some for it here. Let's see here. According to wastedive.com, Jacob Wallace, senior reporter. Let's get a little bit of additional news here. It says the Canadian federal government has ramped up its support for biofuels in recent years as it works to create jobs and support economic development tied to its climate regulations. In the country's 2021 budget, it earmarked 1.5 billion Canadian dollars over 5 years to establish the Clean Fuels Fund, which would provide financing for projects across development stages at multiple points in the supply chain. So this is a Trudeau era initiative that started. The London Digester's public financing comes as a 4-year loan backed by Natural Resources Canada, which Generate Upcycle must begin paying back once it begins generating a profit. Generate Upcycle is covering the rest of the bill for the expansion with its own funds. Minister of Energy and Natural Resources Tim Hodgson said the investment would help bring online another project that would build Canada into an energy superpower. Quote, by supporting projects like Generate Upcycle's RNG facility, we are leveraging homegrown innovation and existing resources into reliable low-carbon energy while growing domestic clean fuel production and creating jobs. A win-win-win, Hodgson said in a statement. The first phase of the expansion, completed in 2024, expanded the site's biogas upgrading system and RNG production capacity. The second phase, which is currently underway, expands the front-end feedstock receiving and anaerobic digestion infrastructure. Caesar said the site had been operating at the same time as the expansion, but it has not yet been able to achieve full run rate. He expects that will happen in January, with the final fine-tuning complete in the first quarter of next year. The full expansion will more than double capacity at the site. It accepts a mix of post-consumer organic waste from municipal contracts and food waste from commercial and industrial partners, helping the region meet its diversion plans. Quote, it's the material that is the core of what Ontario is keeping out of landfills, Caesar said. They're not having to build new landfills. A meaningful portion of the overall MSW, the organic fraction of MSW, is never making it to a landfill. Generate Upcycle launched in 2022 when Generate Capital acquired the food waste to energy division of alternative fuel producer Storm Fisher. The latter company was the original developer of the London site. This is the latest expansion Generate Upcycle has made to its portfolio of facilities across North America and the United Kingdom. Last year, the company also completed an expansion at its Cayuga, New York digester, a facility that now produces 195,000 MMBTUs of RNG annually. The company invested $30 million in the upgrades, some of which was supported by federal investment tax credits generated at the site. Caesar said supportive public policy helps the anaerobic digestion sector in North America mature more quickly, especially as it lags behind progress in Europe. Over time, he hopes that the new projects will convince more policymakers and communities to embrace anaerobic digestion as an organic materials solution. Quote, it does reduce the risk of an investment and it helps people demonstrate the utility of food waste-based anaerobic digesters. Caesar said, this is part of what you do to get an industry off the ground. So some great initiatives there from the government of Canada. I thought I saw something in the news today about greenhouses. That might have been in the chat. Yes, having to do with the Canadian Space Agency. It says that the Canadian Space Agency is building experimental greenhouses in 5 northern communities across Nunavut to test food growing technology for future space, I guess, exploration and travel, which is kind of interesting here. And since we are talking about it, there happens to be a little bit of a CTV, not CTV, CBC clip here that is just 2 minutes and 7 seconds long. So why not throw it into the mix here and see what this is all about, because this definitely piqued my interest, and it's another innovative technology that we are adopting here. All right, so let's see what this is about.
How different is the Canadian Arctic from the moon? The Canadian Space Agency says not that much.
A similar environment in some respects, and some of the same constraints apply in Nunavut as might apply on a moon mission.
Corey Ellis is the CEO of Grocer, a vertical farming company based in Ottawa. They were awarded a contract worth more than $700,000 by the space agency to develop greenhouses in Nunavut that could be used to grow food in space. He says Nunavut is a good spot to test them out. The region, like the moon, has a cold climate and vast undeveloped lands. And getting anything to both of those places can be quite a quest.
And there's no Home Depot that you can just walk to and get spare parts, so you've got to plan for that.
The greenhouses are set to come to at least 5 Nunavut communities: Coral Harbour, Arctic Bay, Igloo Lake, Resolute Bay, and Grise Fjord. And despite being a federal project, it will be up to the communities to choose what exactly they want to grow.
Fruits or vegetables or even medicinal plants that can be found on the land.
Marilyn Racinos, co-CEO of Arctic Fresh, is also involved in the project. He says it will be helpful to astronauts tomorrow, but to Nunavummiut today.
And what a better way to benefit Earth than food autonomy, food security, and food, at the communities.
Nunavut already has some experience with greenhouses. Joe Haven's greenhouse has been growing mint, strawberries, and spicy peppers since 2019. Technician Patty Hajdu says it has brought some freshness and joy to the community, particularly to the elders.
There's one elderly lady that gets really excited for her produce. She jumps with joy and she starts dancing and with laughter.
There is no timeline for when the new greenhouses will arrive in Nunavut, but they hold a promise for even more Arctic strawberries. Artie Sarkisian, CBC News, Iqaluit.
All right. So interesting story here. Lots of innovation, Canadians who make us proud, all of that good stuff there. So yeah, we're moving forward. We're doing things, right? Everything that we're doing for Canada to build up Canada, to be able to export, that's plan A, and everything in the United States is plan B. And that's how we're treating it from now on. And I have No problem with that. Before we go, kids and cubs, a bit of devastating news, kids and cubs. I can't call this Canadians who make us proud because she's not Canadian, but we sure wish she was, because we would definitely claim this person as one of our own. But it seems that sadly the world is a much less bright and happy and loving place today because we have lost the one and only fantastic, amazing, fabulous Dolly Parton. Ah, man. According to Tiffany Wertheimer and Emma Petrie of BBC. Dolly Parton, the country singer from the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, will be remembered for her songs that told beautiful stories so honestly, such as Coat of Many Colors, Jolene, and I Will Always Love You. In a 7-decade career, Parton won 10 Grammy Awards. Only 10? That doesn't seem like enough. Sold more than 100 million records worldwide and wrote in excess of 3,000 songs. Parton took her writing seriously and considered herself a songwriter over everything else. It's my way of expressing myself, she said. It's my therapy. She was also a savvy businesswoman who wasn't afraid to make tough decisions. Armed with a quick wit and southern charm, she took control of her show business career that spanned more than 60 years. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born in 1946, the fourth of 12 children, into a poor farming family who lived in a one-bedroom cabin in Tennessee. This is Dolly Parton at age 9. If you're looking at the image here. Her father, Robert Lee Parton, was a tobacco farmer and paid a missionary a sack of cornmeal for delivering her. There was already music in the family. Her mother, Avi Lee, sung folk songs all the time, and her aunt played the guitar and wrote songs. During some of Parton's earliest performances, her uncle Bill Owens accompanied her on the guitar, formative years for the future music legend. From the age of 6, she sang in the local church where her grandfather was the pastor and was performing on her local TV station by the time she was a teenager. In 1959, when she was 13 years old, Parton performed with Uncle Bill at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, a live broadcast that is regarded as country music's biggest stage. She was introduced by Johnny Cash and received 3 encores. During her teenage year, Parton began to model herself on a local character who was known as the Town Tramp. The lady wore bright red nail-polished low-cut tops and high heels. Young Dolly thought she was beautiful. When people said to her, "She ain't nothing but trash," Parton would reply, "Well, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up." Parton sang, "I'm just a backwards Barbie, too much makeup, too much hair," but her image was both a coat of armor and an astute disguise that helped her get noticed in show business. She would get ahead of the jokes by making them first and had a quick and simple response for anyone who suggested she should tone it down. Quote, "Go to hell." After graduating from high school in 1964, she moved to Nashville to launch her singing career and met her future husband, Carl Dean, on her very first day. They married 2 years later and remained together until his death in 2025. In Nashville, Parton's singing caught the eye of country performer Porter Wagoner, who hired her to perform on his television program. Over the next 7 years, the pair became one of country's most popular duos, releasing so many duets that many fans assumed they were a couple. But the relationship was a complicated one, and as Parton's solo career started to rise, so did tensions behind the scenes. Writing in her book, Star of the Show, My Life on Stage, Parton said Wagoner saw her success away from his show as a threat. And that is Wagoner and Dolly Parton here in this image. While traveling with Wagoner on a tour bus in 1969, Parton wrote Coat of Many Colors, a beautifully emotive tale of how she grew up poor but rich with love. Scrawled on the back of one of Wagoner's dry cleaning receipts, it was rated by Rolling Stone magazine as her second best ever song. Years later, Parton named her own children's book, Coat of Many Colors, and it was the name of the 2015 TV movie based on her life that I watched. It's a song that just stood by me. It's created a life of many colors for me, she said. It's such a beautiful song. I can't listen to it without crying, actually. Despite being unable to read sheet music, Parton played several instruments, including the banjo, harp, piano, and saxophone. She had her first #1 hit and first Grammy nomination with the song Joshua in 1971, and finally left the Porter Wagoner Show in 1974 to concentrate on her solo career. To say goodbye to him, she wrote, "I Will Always Love You," a song that many think is about two lovers parting ways. "That's the prettiest song I have ever heard," Wagoner cried when he first heard it, her website says. The same year, Elvis Presley was set to record a cover of the song, but Parton pulled the deal when his manager demanded half of the songwriting rights. She cried all night at the difficult decision, and Priscilla Presley later told her that Elvis sang the song to her during their divorce. Wow. In 1992, Whitney Houston transformed it into a now iconic power ballad. There's a story about that, actually, that people were wondering if she was jealous that Whitney Houston had so much success with it. And she said, "Come over here." And she brought her into another room, and she opened a drawer, and there was a check for royalties for $1 million. Said, "See this? Yeah, I'm not jealous." Oh, man. Parton said she was driving when she first heard the cover and had to pull over. "When I heard her go from the a cappella into the music part, I honestly thought I was going to have a heart attack. It was one of the most overwhelming things." Houston's cover of Parton's sad little country song was one of the proudest moments of her life, she said. Parton re-recorded the song for The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, a 1982 film for which she starred in and was nominated for a Golden Globe as Best Actress. Another of her most famous songs was released in 1974, Jolene, showing her aching vulnerability. It's about a bank clerk with the flaming locks of auburn hair who flirted with her husband. "Jolene, I'm begging of you, please don't take my man," she pleads. Parton said her husband, who was notoriously private, was a bit embarrassed by the song, but it was nothing serious, just a running joke between them. Quote, "I was saying, hell, you're spending a lot of time at the bank. I don't believe we've got that kind of money." The song has been covered by many artists, including the White Stripes, Miley Cyrus, and Beyonce, who changed up the lyrics to the more ominous, "I'm warning you, don't come for my man." In the years to come, Dolly Parton's success only grew. With more hits, nominations, and awards, she won her first Grammy in 1978 for "Here You Come Again." Oh, I love that song too. It was the theme song that Dolly Parton wrote for the 1980 movie 9 to 5 that fully propelled her to stardom. Actress Jane Fonda, who produced and starred in the film about women being discriminated against in the workplace, made a deal with Parton. She'd star in the film if she could also write the theme song. Realizing her nails clicking together sounded like a typewriter, she wrote 9 to 5 while waiting around on set. Fonda said she realized straight away that it wasn't just a theme song, it was an anthem. The film was a big success at the box office, and the song won several awards, including a Golden Globe. Parton was a successful and shrewd businesswoman, and in 2022 was listed by Forbes as one of America's richest self-made women. Quote, "I look like a woman, but I think like a man. I've done business with men who think I'm as silly as I look. By the time they realize I'm not, I've got the money and gone," she once said. Her physical appearance, the costumes, wigs, long painted nails, and high heels were merely a facade of stereotypically dumb blonde, but she always said she knew she wasn't dumb, and I also know that I'm not a blonde. She also she had her own record label, Dolly Records, and co-owned the Dollywood Company, which manages entertainment venues, a theme park, water park, and resort. In 1986, she opened her Dollywood amusement park in the foothills of her beloved Smoky Mountains, as well as roller coasters. It is home to the largest sanctuary for non-releasable bald eagles in the world. Its rehabilitation and breeding work has won awards, and in 2007, the bald eagle was removed from the endangered species list. Despite her wealth and success, Parton remained humble and supported communities where she grew up. Inspired by her father, who couldn't read or write, she launched the Imagination Library in 1999, which gave free books to children in Tennessee. It has since expanded to Australia, the UK, Ireland, and Canada, sending out millions of free books every year. Her nonprofit organization, the Dollywood Foundation, has funded scholarships, hospitals, and donated to flood and wildfire victims. In 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic gripped the world, Parton donated $1 million to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center, which helped to fund the Moderna vaccine. In later years, Parton had to postpone or cancel several shows for health treatment. In May 2026, she postponed an upcoming Las Vegas residency because of the treatment for kidney stones, saying it would take some time to heal and be stage performance ready. Quote, "I can't be dizzy carrying around banjos, guitars, and such on 5-inch heels, and you know that I'm going to be wearing them," she said in a video message. Not to mention all those heavy rhinestone outfits, the big hair, my big personality. She joked. Talking about her gifts, her girls. Let's put it that way. Parton spoke graciously throughout her career with humor and intelligence. She steered clear of politics, saying she didn't want to alienate half her audience. She was a courageous and talented trailblazer for country music at a time when women were not taken seriously in the industry, especially as solo artists. She also performed at the NFL Thanksgiving halftime show at age 77, looking fabulous, doing it, by the way. Just saying. Parton said she hoped to be remembered for her songwriting and as somebody who took her work seriously but not herself. She once offered this advice: never ignore your roots, your home, or your hair. It's guidance that she stayed true to throughout her life. Wow. This is sad. Uncover says she sent us the family announcement of the passing of Dolly Parton. So let's see here. All right, there we go. It seems that it is not just a written text, but that it is a video announcement. So I will just bring it up here on the page. This, Kits and Cubs, I have to explain, particularly affects me because Dolly Parton is someone I've held in high esteem all my life, ever since I was a little kid. My mom, yeah, there's two sides to me, right? I keep on saying that I was raised on jazz and blues, and I was, but the other form of music I was raised on was country, right? Dolly Parton was always a presence in our home. The first movie I went to see at a movie theater was 9 to 5. I've been a fan ever since. 9 to 5 was the first song, maybe other than like "Oh Canada" and "Happy Birthday," that I've ever sang, that I knew all the words to. Um, of course, incredible supporter of the rainbow community forever, way before it was cool. Loved the drag queens when they impersonated her. Clearly, one of the world's most gifted songwriters, one of the world's richest women, and humble. Again, not forgetting where she came from, always giving back. There is not enough praise that I can heap on Miss Dolly. There are particular people when they pass on, like from Mr. Grizzly was Robin Williams, hit him pretty hard. This is one that would hit me pretty hard here. So a message from the family of Dolly Parton.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian Seaver, son of Cassie Parton, and I'm representing the Parton and Owens family today, announcing the passing of my Aunt Dolly Rebecca Parton Dean, sister, sis, Aunt Granny to one generation and Gigi to the next. This video announcement is something Dolly asked of me years ago, before I fully absorbed it as a future reality. As her head of security for more than 2 decades, a role my father Larry held before me, I have imagined the heaviness of this moment, but haven't truly felt it until now. It is an honor that is mixed with absolute pride and great sadness. But sadness lies with us, not with Dolly. Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl, her parents, and countless others who have watched her and longed for her to meet them in the heavens. I first went on the road with Dolly as a kid, getting a taste of the road life in the early 1980s. Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach the potential we didn't even know was possible. Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent. By her example, we believed that anything was possible. She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the doors she opened made and changed history. My family and I have shared a lifetime of beautiful memories with Dolly, but so have you. She has always been on your television, your record player, your CD, and on your phone playlist, becoming an extended part of your family whether you liked it or not. Our family and the team she has entrusted with her legacy will work diligently to ensure her spirit will live with us forever. Dolly was a farmer, just like her daddy. He farmed the soil, she farmed songs and happiness. Dolly called me and said she wants to rest in a beautiful bed of plush cotton because after a life wearing heavy rhinestones, she finally deserves to be comfortable and have some rest. Rest in peace, Aunt Dolly, Aunt Granny, Gigi. May God bless Dolly Parton, and may God bless you all. She will always love you.
Mm. 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 I have no doubt about that for a second. Kid Terry going, yeah, don't forget her movies. Yeah. Just 9 to 5 straight talk, best little house in Texas. Just everything. You know, it's just everything. A couple of years ago, I think we talked about her. She did she worked with younger artists. You know, regardless of the time of music. There's a dance music group I think from Sweden called Galantis, and they did a cover of oh, I can't remember. Can't remember of it. She did a cover of the song "Peace Train" at one point. That was a big hit. She, even though she wasn't in the movie, she agreed to do the theme song for the movie Transamerica, which was a movie about somebody who was transsexual, transgender. The song called "Traveling Through." If you've never heard it, please, I recommend it. She has a song called "Seasons," a duet with BB Rexa, again, modern day artist. Both together, they sound absolutely amazing. She just had time for everyone, right? She's always willing to share her gift with people. Steel Magnolias. You know, not all of them were good. There was Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone. That was I did see that one. But like, just so many of them. She had a cameo appearance in the Beverly Hills Billies. She had a voice role in Romeo and Juliet. If you hadn't noticed that, a cameo appearance in Miss Congeniality 2. She was in the movie A Joyful Noise as well. So, just this one's tough. I mean, and let's put it this way, like even the GOP tried to come for her a couple of times, which is like there's one person in the world you don't come for. And even Donald Trump has figured it out because it has been announced here that Trump announces the American flag will be lowered throughout the U.S. for a 1-week period in honor of Dolly Parton. I hope so. So yeah, Kit T, I wonder how many people considered her to be part of the family. I know we do. Yeah. Saucy, I thought we had more time with Dolly. I really did too. When she did that video and she, said, yeah, don't worry about me, I'll be okay. I just need a little rest and from the kidney stuff and I'll be back. Wow. Yeah. Kellyanne, she made the world a better place. She did. She did. Oh, Dolly. Why? Why could you have not been immortal? Forever Dolly. Forever Dolly. Forever Dolly. Part of me just wants to say, sing a line. Just Dolly, I will always love you. But there's no way I could ever do it justice the way that Dolly did it, either by the emotional simplicity and almost frailness of the delivery that just breaks your heart when she sings it, to the more quivering way that it comes from Whitney Houston's chest when the a cappella part of the song ends or the way she just belts it out. Right? When you get that pause and that one drop beat from the drum. And I, right? I couldn't do it even close to justice, but Dolly, we, the world will always love you. You gave us so much. I am so sad. Wow. I'm it's like a childhood memory, right? Just there's going to be no more. Wow. She's gone. Just wild. It's so wild. That was not news I was expecting today. All right, kids and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Live watch party, government stuff. I know I had more stuff to mention here, but we're already 3 hours, and we already did the morning show as well. So I think I'm gonna. That's enough for me today. Here, says Blasha says, yes, Carney, to reinstate conceded streamer tax. Yes, that's one of the things I didn't mention yet. François Blanchet, I still didn't do the federal leaders yet. Avi Lewis, François Blanchet, Elizabeth May. I'll have to remember to do that in tomorrow's show. But yes, Blanchet had. I saw his sortie yesterday when he was doing the press thing, and had a list of several things. Most of them reasonable. A couple of them not whatsoever, or not going to happen. In no chance in hell that they're going to happen now. But a lot of them reasonable. Saying that, since the deal is not there, let's reimpose that 3% digital services taxes, and all those recommendations from the CRTC about how much money should be going in to ensure that we have content produced in French and stuff like that. Again, let's have that come then from the streamers' budgets again. There's no need to keep those concessions on the table now, since we're not talking anymore. I would also like to see this other thing news. Saskatchewan, Premier of Saskatchewan has come out in support of retaliatory measures. That's a break with Danielle Smith, who doesn't seem to be there as well. Would be really nice to see Scott Moe really put his money where his mouth is and take the booze that he allowed on the shelves back off now. Right? If he believes, unlike Danielle Smith, that the United States did things that were atrocious enough that they do deserve the counter tariffs, then certainly they do deserve the booze coming off the shelves again, don't they, Premier Moe? Journalists, please repeatedly ask him that until it becomes uncomfortable, because it seems a little ideologically inconsistent to support counter tariffs but not want to remove the booze off the shelves. Just saying. Kid Sassy, give yourself a break, Mr. Beaver. Have a tea, put on some Dolly, and have a good cry. She's not in pain, and we have many things she left for us. Take Dolly's attitude and prepare for the time ahead. Yeah, indeed. And then I see here from Kit Uncover, Ford takes a more subdued approach with the American audience. He's all over the American channels there. Yes, he's going to do that, because one of Ford's typical lines is that I love the American people, but your administration. And right now he's trying to make us believe that he can't stand Donald Trump and really, really hates him. But we all remember that video clip that Donald Trump, even after what he did after the first election, the first time he won, Doug Ford in that room expressing to everybody around that he really hoped that Donald Trump would win, back in the day when he was still hoping he would get an invite to the family Thanksgiving party. I don't believe Doug Ford when he says he hates Donald Trump and can't stand him. I just believe that Doug Ford is grabbing onto a life vest, because he's a bit of a floater. If anybody's watched Big Brother, All right, kids and cubs, like I said, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring. Word of mouth is priceless. Tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you can, when you share our content, include a little word of your own about why it is our content resonates with you so that people are more likely to click on it. If you would like to help us, this QR code brings you to our YouTube page where you can click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. Click on the notification bell, select all. That way, whenever we have new content, it will be up there and you will see it after it is posted. Also, kids and cubs, if you are watching the show not live but within 7 days of original broadcast and you are watching it on a cell phone or a tablet, please swipe left on the comment section and offer us some hype points. You can do that 3 times a week and it helps smaller audience channels like ourselves gain more visibility on the platform. We thank you for all you do to help us. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, well, have we got a deal for you? The Emergency Hydration Fund or our tip jar at our coffee page. If you scan that QR code, it will bring you there, coffeeko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. Thank you so very much for that. You can make a one-time donation or a recurring donation that you can stop anytime that you want. We get about 97%, 95 to 97% of your donation when you donate via coffee. So please, if you could make a donation, it would be very helpful and extremely appreciated. And if you can't donate through coffee, you might want to buy a membership via our YouTube page or send some stickers or super chats. We get 70% of your donation there. Or if you do not want to support any of the CE Tech Bros, the PayPals and all of those, well, then you go to your bank and you take our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and send us a direct transfer there. And that way we get 100% of your donation. None of it goes to any CE Tech Bros from the United States. And that's a win-win-win situation. Now, if you want to send us something other than money, like some comments, some critiques, some feedback, some compliments, some guest suggestions for our show, some good news that's coming in from you, questions about the show or about politics you would like us to answer, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That same email address is what you can use in order to do that. And if you are looking for us on our socials, well, with the hashtag TrueEager, the handle TrueEager, you can find us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge and also on the Jitter. You can find us on Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, which is our original home, and also on Instagram, thanks to Kit Uncover. You can find us on our Substack page called Beaver Bites. You can find us on our coffee page, as we mentioned. And of course, kits and cubs. If I think we have the Damn Fam unofficial Discord. I hope I mentioned that. And right here in the comment section on YouTube is the best place to leave us a comment that we are going to see. We try to read everything that we do see, even though we're not able to answer everyone, and everything you contribute to the show, whether in financial or in word, goes back into it to make it a better product. So thank you so much. Because democracy is something that you do remember, that we have federal by-elections going on, North Vancouver, Capilano, Beaches, East York, and Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord going on right now. Very important that you make your plan to vote. If you want to vote early, you have to go to the returning office because anticipatory voting is over now. If you have your vote by mail ballot, if you've gotten that, make sure that you get it in on time. Very important there as well. If we are looking at the federal polling at the moment, when it comes to this, right now, it is looking like all 3 seats would be in the hands of the Liberals should an election be held today. Looking at Quebec, Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Actually, I might be wrong about that one. That one might be wrong. Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord showing the Bloc with 34, the Liberals 33, and the Conservatives with 28. Latest update, August 23rd, based on projections. So that one is very close. And perhaps with what Prime Minister Carney did by putting culture at the center of one of the reasons for which he refused the deal, could be the deciding factor. In Beaches, East York, last update August 23rd, we have Liberals with 62, NDP 17, Conservatives 16. Conservatives finished third there. That would be absolutely devastating for Pierre Poilievre, particularly since the fundraising is not going all that well for him. And North Vancouver, Capilano, Liberals 59, Conservatives 29, NDP 7, Greens 4 in that one. So far looking very good for the Liberals with 6 days to go. And Prime Minister Carney seems to have avoided a trap with what he has done over the past few days in terms of trying to bring the by-elections into this. The Americans are trying to do it. You had Jameson Greer stating on the mic that maybe the reason that Mark Carney is doing this has something to do with by-elections. No, we just don't want to be your vassal. It's not us, United States. It's you. It's really you. All right. And remember, voting day, the 31st. Of course, if you are in Ontario, you also have 3 by-elections coming up. September 3rd. Advance voting starts tomorrow, Wednesday, August 26th, and goes to Friday, August 25th, here from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. East Hamilton, Smoky Creek, I believe it is one of them. York Simcoe is the other one, and Scarborough Southwest, I believe, is the other 3. So your deadline to apply to vote by mail, if you want to, is 6 p.m. on August 28th, if you want to get that ballot. And again, the voting day for that one is September 3rd. But advance voting, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., starting tomorrow through Friday. If you want to vote early, just go to elections.on.ca to find out more there. Also, Kits and Cubs, just wanted to bring your attention to an appeal. Our brothers and sisters in Manitoba, are looking for your help because they had some flooding, and the Red Cross is hosting an appeal. So if you would like to, Kits and Cubs, be able to help our fellow citizens, you can do so by going to give.redcross.ca/page/26MBFLA, and that is the place where you can make a donation right there. And if you want to as well, you can donate by phone or by email by calling 1-800-418-1111. That's 1-800-418-1111, or by sending an email to wecare@redcross.ca. That's wecare@redcross.ca. So, and if you are donating, please know that the government of Manitoba will be matching your donations dollar for dollar. So for every dollar you give, you get $2 in donation, which really makes it worth it. So there you go, Kits and Cubs. Please do that. Let's see, what else do we have for you today? Words of wisdom, Kits and Cubs. The words of wisdom, I'm going to give the ones that Kitsasi. Make yourself a tea or your favorite bevy. Sit someplace quiet and listen to, spend some moment listening to your favorite Dolly Parton songs. Just have a conversation, a chat with Dolly today. Might make you feel better, or at least just a thank you. This is really sad. Oh my God. Kits and Cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And with that, Kits and Cubs, can I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. And we'll come back this time with some Canadians who make us proud. All right. Since you asked, here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo. Just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kits and Cubs, a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. First, from the world of volleyball, where the North and Central American Championship for women are taking place, and Team Canada doing very well, finishing at the top of their pool in competition play with 3 wins, no losses, defeating the USA, Mexico, and Trinidad and Tobago in the course of it, and is advanced to the semifinals of the playoffs, where they will be taking on Cuba to try to advance to the final, and the United States will be taking on Dominican Republic. So hopefully the Canadian women will have some success there. That's at 6 p.m. tonight, actually, that will be taking place. In basketball, we had mentioned it a little bit, but we got a good result from the Canadian women who were competing at the FIBA America Cup. Sorry, not the FIBA American Cup. What am I talking about? That was completely wrong. At the Olympic pre-qualifying tournament. So basically, they had to win this tournament in order to go to the women's Olympic qualifying tournament itself, which is the final stage of qualification for the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games. And in the final against Mexico, it seems they defeated Mexico 83-53 on home soil in Guadalajara. Kayla Alexander powered Canada with 14 points while adding 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Agat McKeer scored 13 points on 5 of 7 shooting and added 3 rebounds and 3 assists without committing a turnover. The Canadian women swept the tournament, going 5-0 after wins against Senegal, the Philippines, Mexico, and New Zealand in the semifinal. That result was a tad bit closer for the Canadians when they competed in that one. But still, a great result for Team Canada. That game with New Zealand was 86-71. But yes, they move on to the larger tournament here, which is good, and get to see whether or not they get to qualify for the Olympics. So that is a good deal here from our Canadians. More good news, this time from the world of golf, with a name that we recently mentioned, Ana Huang, who had just won an event not too long ago, ranked 45th in the world. Well, it seems that over the weekend and late last week, there was the Canadian Open on the PGA Tour. And Canadian women really did well, with Ana Huang taking 4th place in the tournament, tying for 4th. So it seems that her ranking is going to rise from about 45th in the world to 43rd in the world to the top 30 with that performance. Tied at 7, Aphrodite Deng, whose world ranking was in the 300s and has climbed to 229 after a 7th place finish for her. And really, she is the future of Canadian golf because she is very, 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 very young. She made a big splash, I think it was last year, but she's just 16. Former figure skater as well. But yeah, last year, in July 2025, when she was 15, she became the first Canadian to win the U.S. Girls Junior Golf Championship. She basically started out with a big splash and has not looked back since. Um, then we have Brooke Henderson, who won it last year, who finished in 13th place, very respectable performance. And then we had, out of everybody that entered, and I think there was about at least about 160 entries, 3 other Canadians who made the cut and ended up 59th place. We have Savannah Gruel, world ranking 549th, and made the cut and ended really well. So that's a great performance for her. We have Clary Lynn, who doesn't even have a world ranking. She probably maybe has one now, and ended up 59th as well. And we have Maud Aimé Leblanc, world ranking 420th, who managed to make the cut and end up 64th. So some great performances from Canadian women here at this tournament. We had as well in the tournament at least 3, 4, I'm looking at this, 5, 6, 7, 8 other who either had to withdraw along the way or didn't make the cut. But great performances for them. And finally, Kits and Cubs at the World Badminton Championship, we were talking about Victor Lai. Well, he repeated his bronze medal performance. This is not a fluke. Bronze medal last year, bronze medal this year, and the Masters 1000 event in Indonesia. Having a great season, he is. I think he's ranked 7th in the world, might be a little higher now. Last year at the World Championships, when he entered, he was ranked about 50th in the world. So he's been climbing. Great performance from him. Like I said, lots of Canadians making us extremely proud over the past few days. And I just wanted to highlight a few of them. We also had some beach volleyball players, Humana Paradis and Wilkerson, who did well at the Olympics last time around, taking the bronze medal in Montreal. And men's team, Shakhtar, and I can't remember who his partner is, unfortunately, who also took the bronze at the Elite 16 event in beach volleyball in Montreal. And it had been a while since we had gotten a medal on the men's side. So, very good from us there. The other person on the team was Jonathan Pickett. So I believe Sam Shakhtar, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and Jonathan Pickett. So great performances by Canadians who make us proud. And then once again, I'm still with it. The Canadian has been making us most proud, Mark Carney. And if we can consider Dolly Parton an honorary Canadian, then we have her. She's an honorary citizen of the world, pretty much. So today we are claiming her as a Canadian who also makes us proud. There we go. I did it. I'm the queen. I'm allowed. All right, kids and cubs. That's all I got. Amore bisous. See you tomorrow. And maybe tomorrow we'll have a regular day. Because today, if I think about it, if I count the live watch party with the morning show we did, I actually did more show today than I did yesterday. And yesterday I thought was long enough. So please, the world, stop making news. Or at least that's so much, so that I can have normal shows. Although, bonus damn fam time is always good time as well, so I can't complain that much. I love you so much, everyone. Damn fam, thank you for all your love and your support, and we will see you again tomorrow, unless something hits the fan and I need to come back on today. There is a chance I will be on today. Don't know if I'm going to do it live, but I have an interview scheduled with, I believe, Mr. Jacob Pacheco, who is a tennis writer with The Slice. And we have the U.S. Open of tennis about to start. Some of the competition has already started in terms of qualifications and mixed doubles. So hopefully doing a preview of what we can expect there and some Canadians to cheer for. So not sure if we will go live this afternoon and do it, or whether or not we will pre-record it and show it later. But if you have any questions, if you're a tennis fan and you have any questions about the sport, certain players in general, or Canadians specifically that you would like me to ask Jacob, please send them to me at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and I will work them into the interview. All right. So like I said, might be going live with that one, might be for pre-recorded for later, but if we're going live, I will put out a notice and so that you can see it. All right. Amore bisous. We will see you very soon. Spend some time with Dolly. Okay, bye.